Well, as it is our first show of 2020, we're going to leave you today with a look at how cities around the world rang in the new year. These celebrations went off with a bang. People were having a blast. You can clearly see that when it comes to pyrotechnics, fireworks, it snaps to attention, crackles with color, pops with pride, sparks new celebrations, and acts as an auld lang sign of good times. Even if staying up late leaves some people Janu-weary, they were sure to have 2020 vision when they woke up the next day. I'm Carl Azuz. This is CNN 10. If you're watching from our... Who's hungry for pizza? Now, who's hungry for pizza from an ATM? There's a new one of those at the University of North Florida, giving college students access to hot pizza round the clock. The pies inside are refrigerated with certain toppings already on them, so they're not made to order, but they are baked to order. That takes a little less than 4 minutes at a cost of $9 per pizza. Are they good? Well, they're pizza. So if you want a pizza and the time is 3 a.m. and you can warm up to the idea of a pizza ATM, it's on trend. Call a friend. Bring your hunger and your money. It's a short wait to a fresh baked pizza pie with pepperoni. If you dream of late night pizza, this machine could grant your wishes. Just don't go for the anchovies and stink up the dorm with fishes. I'm Carl Azuz. Hey, if you're watching from a classroom, if you have ever thought, what would a cuttlefish do if you glued 3D glasses on it and then played 3D movies of its favorite prey, you were thinking like researchers at the University of Minnesota. They used temporary glue and Velcro to study cuttlefish vision, and the animals went after the screen like critics go after popcorn. Researchers say cuttlefish have better depth perception than people do. The work was published in the journal Science Advances. Now you might be asking, what were they thinking? Of course fish have better depth perception. You don't need to dive deep into research to see that fish in water see better than fish out of water. As some might say, it's a new dimension of science that's making waves, but to others and the cuttlefish themselves, it's just seafood. I'm Carl Azuz. For 10 out of 10 today, it seems 2 pandas was one too many at this nature reserve in China. So Zhaoxin and Lulu decided to settle their differences in an epic panda battle. Okay, fake news. These are pandas at a Chinese nature preserve, but they're just playing and wrestling and generally having an awesome time in the first snowfall to hit their area. Seems people aren't the only beings to want to play in the snow. When 2 bears test their panda might, no critic would dare panda fight. They hit like Rocky, strike like Rambo, battles raging over bamboo. In the trees or in the snow, they wrestle in a pandering show. So who is wrong and who is right? With panda bears, it's black and white. Thank you for watching. Today's shout out is for... Sticking with our travel theme, if you've ever been on a ship or ferry in the open sea, you might have spotted dolphins swimming alongside. So did some firefighters from the Naples, Florida Fire Rescue Department. Last week, they posted this video on their Facebook page and called it "Dolphins Came to Play." One fireman described the scene as a perk of having the best job in the world in the beautiful city of Naples. #blessed. It's no fish story and it's no tall tale. Thanks to their newfound fame, the Dolphins got their very own fin club. And it's no fluke, it's opened so many dorsals, and if they use their melons, you can expect them to be beaked to flex their pectoral flippers once more. I'm Carl Azuz, and that is CNN 10. The students of Rotolo... Before the selfie as we know it existed, a photographer started taking self-portraits every day starting on January 11th, 2000. But Carl, you might say, that's almost exactly 20 years ago. Yes, and now he's edited more than 7,200 photos into the video you're about to see a clip of. It's like a time-lapse of a man's face. Is it selfish? Well, it's selfish, and it's amazing he's been able to selfie stick with it so long. Some shudder at the thought of working so hard to see them selfies age through a lens, but if you're bokeh with the idea, you're sure of yourself, and you can focus long enough, the release of a flash-synced video with so much depth of field yields such a burst of achievement, it's hard to control one's selfie at the mirror image. To our viewers at if you've ever felt like you've been running on a treadmill like forever, this guy knows what you're talking about. His name is Mario Mendoza, and he recently set a new treadmill world record. He ran 31 miles in almost 3 hours, and he was flying. His average pace was 6 minutes per mile. Mendoza earned his record at Madras High School in Madras, Oregon. He wanted to promote fitness and inspire students. Now that's the way to break a leg. He must have had a one-track or single-track mind to keep up that pace while staying in place, milking that record like a pronator. And while the finish line looked just like the starting line, he took it all in stride, because if the shoe fits, you just gotta run with it, y'all. I'm Azuz. We're not in Kansas, but Trail Ridge. There are certain advantages to being the tallest firefighter in the department.
We put in smoke detectors. He doesn't need a ladder.
At 7 feet tall, Brandon Barrage may be the tallest firefighter on the planet. He still has to train like his colleagues in Tullahoma, Tennessee, and they sometimes enjoy cutting him down with nicknames like Shorty.
One of the officers' kids calls me Aflac because I have to duck all the time.
But when you've got the height, you're in a firefight, you don't take flight, you don't get stage fright, you just might get a rise out of your good luck. Putting down the flames, that ain't tall enough to burn you up. Some people spit fire, Brandon Barrage puts it out. Hear the siren, see the tall guy, just give him a shout. The 7-footer do-gooder unfolds from the truck and high rises to the challenge when that challenge heats up. All right, we've got some folks in Mansfield, Texas. Time for some fast facts. A standard Snickers bar has 250 calories, 27 grams of sugar, and 4 grams of protein. This one has more than that. It's the Guinness World Record-sized Snickers bar, made at the Mars Wrigley candy plant in Texas. The 4,700-pound chocolate reportedly took a week to make and has over 10 million calories, 1 million grams of sugar, and 170,000 grams of protein. But you're not gonna eat it unless you're a Mars employee, and you don't drop the chunky good bar with your Butterfingers. Oh sure, some will think it's a 100 grand idea, bringing mounds of almond joy with every crunch, but betwixt you and me, baby, I'd ruther wait until payday to join the Three Musketeers in searching Mars or the whole Milky Way for one of those, whatchamacallit, healthy scores of until my Reese's peanut butter cup runneth over. Yeah, candy puns. They're always sweet, y'all. So are the students of food. Last weekend, Newfoundland, Canada got more snowfall than at any other time in its recorded history. It was over people's heads in some places. That's why Lola Parsons was confused at first about why her car wasn't buried. Then she looked inside it. Parsons had left a window open and the snow blew into her car instead of around it. There was so much she couldn't fit inside. The good-natured Canadian just laughed it off. And while we don't know the car brand, we're guessing it was a Ford Fiesta, a Chill Lincoln, a Lotus Elise, a Get Out of Dodge, a McFrozen P1, a Nissan Maximize, an Oldsmobile Aurora Borealis, a Toyota Prius, a Bugatti Gelato, a Porsche Ice Boxster, a Yugo Somewhere Warmer, anything by Polaris, or an Alpine. All right, today's show starts. Iguanas are not an ingredient on Australia's longest ever continuous pizza. But if you're wondering why that title was so long, it's because this pie stretches more than 337 feet. That's about the length of a football field. But it's not for football players. The Italian restaurant that baked this behemoth did it to raise money for the firefighters battling Australia's ongoing wildfires. It took about 5 hours to cook and made 4,000 slices. Spinaturally, I'm gonna bake some cheesy puns about that. I'm kind of a ham, they're the pineapple of my eye, and do you know there's a reckon no way I wouldn't leave mushroom to pepperoni my program just to pesto you before we leave. I just can't leave y'all in pizza. But we think it's awesome. The restaurant found a way to fight fire with pie, and we hope it helps put out both flames and appetites in a part of the world in need. Desert Ridge. 216 footballs for one game. That's how many are being made by Wilson, the company that's provided Super Bowl footballs since 1941. In its factory in Ohio, Wilson picks the leather, cuts the leather, stamps the leather, stitches up the balls, and then they're laced like shoes and sent to Super Bowl LIV, also known as Super Bowl 54, with 108 of them going to the Chiefs and 108 going to the 49ers. So that's the pig skinny on how they're made before the athletes have a ball with how they're played. Now some will get frayed and some will fade or get kicked, dropped, or sprayed with Gatorade. But that's the life of a Super Bowl. They lose or win some. The rest is elementary, my dear Wilson. Okay, enough of that. For 10 out of 10, we wouldn't exactly call this underwater creature a land shark, but it definitely looks like it could get around on solid ground. Scientists recently found 4 new species of what are called walking sharks. They use their fins to climb around seagrass and shallow reefs while they're on the hunt for small fish. So thankfully they're not dangerous to humans. But if a great white ever decides to imitate one and you've got a cut on your ankle, you'll need ample time to ramble to reach the upper beach, to sash away from waves while waving adieu to what's chasing you in hopes you'll have the locomotion to propel you from the ocean. You canter meander reefs when what's walking your way has teeths. That's a cold-blooded conclusion to CNN 10. We hope you'll take it all in. For 10 out of 10, what do you get when you cross snow with a mountain coaster? You get a snowler coaster. And this here one in Steamboat Springs, Colorado is reportedly the longest on the continent at more than a mile in length. It's called the Outlaw. It's not as fast as the roller coasters you ride at Six Flags. This one tops out at about 25 miles per hour, but it lasts 10 minutes at a cost of $20 per ticket. Out in the American West, fans of the Outlaw are not Billy the Kidding when they take a wild bunch of trips, watching the sun dance on the snow, understanding the gravity of the situation, and dropping in like a falling bell star who went off the rails without actually going off the rails. Our viewers in Strasbourg. Artist Carrie Johns says she thinks of herself as a big kid. Her favorite canvas is popular with a lot of kids. It's an Etch-a-Sketch. Like the plastic kind with the knobs and the 1960 technology and the "it's really hard to do this on one" factor. Johns can sketch a small detailed picture in an hour or two. She says her secret to getting good was practice, and to keep the finished picture from shaking out, she saws the box open and dumps out the powder, which some would tell you is a sketchy way to etch a stylish image without having to start over with a clean slate every time you're shaking up. It's not for everyone, but if you like the idea of scratching out a living by blurring the line between artistry and playtime, it's something to toy with once you've worked out the twists and turns of all that screen time and you never have to pick out a frame. Hey, there is one way to get... Well, we started with political news. We're wrapping up with a mayoral race that'll either go to the dogs or get your goat. In this corner, the challenger, Sandy the dog. She serves her community of Fairhaven, Vermont as a canine officer. And in this corner, the mayoral champion, Lincoln the goat, who may or may not be running for re-election. Regardless of the outcome, the money raised by the race will go to build a new playground. One takes a bite at a crime, the other rules as the greatest of all time. One shepherds her constituents, the other roams around with ruminants. One wants to do some good, the other wants to chew some cud, but both are adding plenty of flavor to Fairhaven's race for mayor. It's got twice the legs to stand on, and it makes for one doggone goat time. All right, in Calgary... I love time-lapse video. You could show me a time-lapse of a chicken in a yard. I'd find it fascinating. But how much more fascinating is this video of the Northern Lights? Finnish stargazers recently noticed a unique shape to this aurora, what makes it look like a dune. University of Helsinki scientists think it's caused by waves of oxygen atoms in the upper atmosphere. They hope it'll help us learn more about that atmosphere. Assuming they can all get on the same wavelength without anyone aurorizing up with a bad latitude. Guess it depends on how charged things get and which way the solar wind blows. At least it's magneto to look at and easy to see why scientists get eye on a site that has played its particle and precipitated aurora. Awesome displays for hydro generations, y'all. I'm Carl Azuz. A A telescope on top of a Hawaiian volcano captured our 10 out of 10 segment today. The kaleidoscopic image of oozing amber looks as if the telescope was pointed down into a volcano, but this is actually the surface of the sun, and the movement you see is believed to be rising and sinking cells of plasma. Scientists hope projects like this will help them better understand Earth's nearest star and better predict space weather and solar storms. Maybe the sun isn't ready for its close-up. Despite its radiance and prominence, maybe it's afraid we'll see its spots, and it might call the whole telescope of this project unflare. Even at 93 million miles away, it might try to keep its distance from the human public eye because, as they say, like farther. Okay, let's forget all about donkeys and elephants for a moment and just enjoy this special friendship between dog and cat. Big Cat. Nandi is a cheetah, Bowie is a Labrador retriever. And since they were just cub and puppy, they've been paired up at a New Jersey zoo because dogs help skittish cats like cheetahs feel more secure. When they're not playing together, they're working together to get people to support cheetah conservation. It's like the fast and the friendliest. In any kind of weather, it's raining cats and dogs with a lab and a predator. Maybe you should never play cards with a cheetah, but when Bowie's there with Nandi, you should really try to meet her, because wildebeests and ostriches will say cheetahs are horrible. With a dog beside them, they're simply Labradorable. All right, I'm Carl Azuz. Today's... For 10 out of 10, Leonardo could never see this coming. This is one of his most famous paintings, the Mona Lisa, made entirely out of Rubik's Cubes. She's so like the lady with the mystic smile. The work, called A Form of Rubik Cubism, is up for auction later this month, where it could fetch as much as $166,000. That'd be a pretty good profit. The 330 cubes it took to build it would have cost less than $3,000. It's too bad the winning bidder has to pay that all at once. Some could Matisse-ly Van Gogh to the bank one starry night and convince you them to let you Warhol out enough Monet to Caravaggio right back to the auction house, but that's a long way to Goya when what you really saw to do is just take out a Mona Lisa. That's elevating puns to an art form, y'all. East, Middle, and Sioux City. The Fox and the Hound, Milo and Otis, Oliver and Company. Good things can happen when animals team up. So today we present the coyote and the badger. This is real, though unusual footage captured near a pipe in California. We don't know where they've been, where they're going, or how on earth they became apparent companions. But animal experts say it's likely they were going to hunt together and that they'd be good at it. Because when it comes to whatever they're hunting, one could badger it inside its den while the other could bark it up. One could dig it while the other could dog it. One could give it the yips while the other could pelt it, and one could weasel its way in while the other could wolf it on its way out. So whatever they're after, better pray. Anderson High School and Anderson. For 10 out of 10, we present to you The Starry Night by Vincent Van, how do you say it? He's one of the most well-known artists in the world, but an audio guide at a new exhibition in London says Van Gogh, and experts say that's wrong. Some say it should be pronounced Van Gogh, some say Van Gogh, some say Van Gogh. This has been a controversy since the artist was alive, and that's reportedly part of the reason why he signed every painting simply Vincent. Who would have thought the controversy would still be Van Goghing so long after he'd Van gone? Some might Van scoff at the idea, some might get the impressionism that the debate is better discussed on, let's say, a cafe terrace at night. Some will just Van Gogh with what they Van know, and you'll never be able to convince them otherwise. Beechwood sounds like it could have been one of... From Upper New York Bay to Lake Mendota, Lady Liberty's been on the move. She also sank down a bit into the waves, but this isn't really the statue, it's an inflatable replica of it, and this is part of a University of Wisconsin prank dating back to 1979. At that time, 2 student association candidates promised to deliver wackiness if they were reelected. They were, and the statue in the lake has been an on and off tradition ever since. That cost the students $4,000. Where'd they get it? They're not at liberty to say. But they ought to be put on a pedestal for carrying a torch for pranks, because that one's got to be the jewel in their crown. A completely lakeable inflatable that shows there's no statute of limitations when you combine liberty and imagination. Here is a great example of how if something's on the internet, it's gotta be true. Forget all about February 14th. February 10th was a special day because that's when brooms could stand up on their own. A viral tweet credited NASA with saying this because of the, quote, gravitational pull. We didn't actually find any quotes from NASA on this, but we did find lots of evidence. Just look at all these brooms. On the other hand,
and if you can actually make the bristles make a small little tripod down there, they'll stand up any day. People are saying that it's because the planets are lining up. No.
the online sensation swept the nation. A duster or vacuum can't hold a candle to. The stand-up proof that doesn't need a sleuth to show all you need's a brush and a handle too. If you see a broom stand alone in a room like there's a hitch with a witch that left it all lonely, don't think this'll make it better if you bristle, because after all, it's standing broom only. I don't know why. Time to turn up the radio to CNN 10, because scientists say they've detected some mysterious radio signals from outer space. Radio signals are nothing new, but what was picked up by a radio telescope in Western Canada is a pattern of these signals that repeats every 16 days. Scientists don't know why. They think it's coming from a galaxy that's about 500 million light years away, so like outside our neighborhood, and that it could be coming from a star. Well, of course, all radio hits come from stars. It's not really transforming information. You just need to have the capacitor to keep your antennas out and tune in to whatever's dialed up and amplified across the universe, and you'll not be disappointed in what's speakering to your earphones. Radio puns, they're ear transistable, y'all. I'm Carl Azuz, Timberland High School. For 10 out of 10, how to train a sheepdog to become a bird dog. There are a lot of geese in the area around Denver, Colorado, and after seeing his dog chase geese away from a campsite, the owner decided to use the animal in goose control, and that's become a full-time job. He says the dogs don't actually eat or even contact the geese, but they make them think that there's a predator in the area so the birds won't come back. Or should I say they won't come beak, or they won't come bark. Now you might be thinking, waterfowl idea. But when a dog has a good gander at a goose and goes on a wild goose chase, the geese it's gotta do is geese out of there in a doggone hurry before it gets herded, though not hurted, by a border collie turned border collie. All right, Tioga, Louisiana. Well, even though this happened in February, it was time to own the night like the 4th of July. 'Cause baby, it's a firework. The Guinness World Record for the biggest one ever. Its shell was more than 5 feet in diameter, and it weighed 2,800 pounds, as much as a compact car. It took explosives to get the thing off the ground, but once it did, it lifted almost a mile high before onlookers in Colorado were left in awe. It was even brighter than the moon. And it's no wonder why, when the colors burst, viewers got such a charge out of it. Critics might have called it a waste of space, but when its makers ignited the light and let it shine, it would be okay to say it was very impressive. If you're not familiar with that song, those puns are a total dud. But our viewers in For 10 out of 10, this is about as close as a fan can get to actually seeing what a race car driver sees. It's called driver's eye. It's a little blurry and a lot of shaky, but it's live. And because it's mounted inside the lining of drivers' helmets, it shows you exactly what direction they're looking in. The new technology was introduced in Formula E racing, and race organizers hope it'll increase fan engagement in the sport. Not everyone will like the aerodynamics. Some will want to make a pit stop if the driver's eye view brings a third dimension of motion sickness. But assuming they can keep their brake balance, they'll chassis the race from a whole new pole position without needing a headrest, and that could be the spark that leaves fans on the edge of their single seat. I want to give a big shout out to our last story this Thursday is about a match made in heaven. Dog heaven. Honey and Duke are the names of the dogs. They're rescue mutts in South Carolina, and apparently they have a lot in common. They both love treats, and they're both dogs. So with costumes custom tailored for the occasion and a ceremony attended by close human family and friends, Honey and Duke were officially united as dog and wife, and the dessert truly took the cake. To heel and to hold, from this dog forward, for Barker or worse, Guess you could call that holy matrimony. They might have a leg up on human weddings unless they needed a prenuptial agreement, but we wonder what the groom will do when he sees his first honeydew list. Listen, it's time for us to... Start with a flying suit. Strap a wing on your back that has 4 jet engines, and you have what's being called a jetman suit. Last weekend in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, a pilot got off the ground with one, and that's significant because previous jetman flights have launched from helicopters and elevated platforms. The pilot eventually rose more than 4,900 feet in the air before parachuting back down. Want one? Me too. But prices of similar jet-powered wings have reportedly cost around $150,000. And that would take some serious bwing and wing up quite a tab for a wingsuit that might wing you a fascinating view, but who can swing all the cha-chwing just to get on the wing? You can't just wing it, you might have to wing the lottery, and it might leave you winging your hands over spend wing all your wingings like you're throwing a winging wingding. I'm Carl Azuz, shout out to our friends. I'm going to loosely quote Mr. Rogers to kick off today's 10 out of 10 segment. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Monrovia, California is located on the edge of Angeles National Forest, so it's not entirely unusual for residents to spot a bear. But this one meandered through the suburbs so calmly and casually that it got people buzzing and taking pictures. Eventually, wildlife officials tranquilized the 400-pound animal and relocated it. It certainly was a spectacle, if not a spectacle bear. It was a polarizing sight. Some would call it a grisly discovery, while others might give it Cody accolades for having the spirit to bear the suburbs, even if it was a bit slothful, must have gotten too much sun to bear. Seeing is bear leaving, and I'm sure folks were asking, brown bear, what do you see? Hey, we see some... For 10 out of 10, ouch. This is not the face of someone who's having fun, but he is setting a Guinness World Record. George Hood is a former U.S. Marine, and for the last 18 months, he's been training to set a new high bar for planking. He says this training involved hundreds of push-ups, thousands of sit-ups, and hundreds of curls every day. And when the time came to plank for the record, the 62-year-old did that for 8 hours, 15 minutes, and 15 seconds, which made his accomplishment absolute. This took more than doing the bare abdominimum. You gotta figure how much pain you can stomach, you gotta elbow your way to the top, you gotta set your mind on abdomination, and to pass the time, you just let your thoughts go plank. I'm Carl Azuz, flexing puns for CNN 10. Shout out to Robert Gray Middle School. When you think of road hazards in Washington State, this doesn't come to mind. It also doesn't come when you call it. So multiple wildlife agencies had to work together to trap this 500-pound sea lion. Officials say it likely took several wrong turns after leaving the river, and that's how it wound up in a wooded area miles away from its water source. The sea lion was relocated to the Columbia River after it was trapped. I'd say they did a stellar job. Oh, the animal might have blubbered about it, but they didn't say cry me a river, they just took it to one. And once its fate and safety were sealed, we're sure the otter creatures all rushed over to hear some of its roarsome adventures as a pedestrian. Woo! On yesterday's show at YouTube. News bloopers, always rate 10 out of 10. Justin Hinton is a reporter with CNN affiliate WLOS. He was live on the station's Facebook page last week talking about snowfall in North Carolina, but there was a little problem. He'd accidentally flipped on the face filters.
So kind of across the region, you know, Governor Cooper had put out a message earlier today warning people to be careful.
And the longer it went on, the better it went on. Hinton says he didn't even realize this was happening until he saw the comments. News station employees, friends, and viewers were all writing in telling him how funny his report was. Once everything was wrapped up, Hinton said, if you can't laugh at yourself, what's the point of laughter? Some people get nervous facing the camera. Justin just makes faces at it. He could have done an about face and faced up to defacing an otherwise factual report with some silly FaceTime, but let's face the music and face the facts. Justin put his best face forward and saved face by flashing a smile that no one could have faced, and that is face news. I'm Carl Azuz for CNN 10, Valley High School in Gilcall. Sleep pods. Sounds like AirPods that make you drowsy. but they're prototype sleeping quarters that could one day appear on Air New Zealand flights. What's unique about these is that they'd be for economy passengers, so you wouldn't need to fly first class to stretch out. They're kind of like a modern-day version of the Pullman sleeping cars on old trains. Each pod would have a blanket, a pillow, earplugs, and privacy curtains. Pricing hasn't been announced, but this could make the 16 to 18-hour flight between Auckland and New York City more like a slumber party. If you're looking to nod off after takeoff and give jet lag the old shake-off, and instead of time to think, you just need your 40 winks, Air New Zealand knows the deal in what tired travelers are feeling, helping sleepy eyes economize. They see you don't need to compromise on lying down while flying up and touching down when waking up. Refreshment is a given when synced with circadian rhythm. Whoa! Today's show is good. On the New Jersey shore in the city of Margate, there's been an elephantine presence since 1881. First, what's known as Lucy the Elephant was a restaurant and hotel. Then it became a vacation home and eventually a National Historic Landmark. Now, as a way to raise awareness and money for Lucy's preservation, it'll be available once again as a hotel, an Airbnb rental for 3 nights only. The price, $138 a night in honor of Lucy's age. It opens the Margate to history buffs who will be very Victoria interested in Lucy's elephantastic pedigree. They'll be up to the task of telling her tale to anyone who will lend an ear when they trumpet their account of a really good trunk show. I'm Carl Azuz, and though I don't personally... There's a new hall monitor at Lockhart Middle School in Savannah, Georgia. His name is Bob. Not much personality, but he's a robot, so he can wave, sorta, but Bob's main job is to patrol the hallways to keep kids in class. If he sees some folks breaking the rules, he'll get their attention. Bob's one of a number of projects here meant to promote STEM education. The others include electric cars and even an airplane. But it's Bob who has his mechanized on anyone looking to be tardy. He's a champion of cops and Roberts. He can't be robot off. He's got many years of experience, and if you're trying to pass through the hall without a hall pass, you'd better be bobbing and weaving, because you ain't bobbing and leaving without being caught on camera with all your tried and truant methods. I'm Carl Azuz, and we're wrapping up our show. For 10 out of 10, Roller Man sounds interesting. Let's see. A suit made out of carbon fiber and roller skate wheels. Check. A dude willing to wear it and turn it into an extreme sport. Check. Speed as much as 60 miles per hour. Check. A plan to turn Roller Man into a comic book character. Okay. Personally, I think Roller Man would make a great pizza delivery man. As long as he keeps the pie intact and manages not to have a wreck, he could redefine the category of Meals on Wheels. Some would say a suit of plastic wheels is polyurethane. But when Roller Man's out for a spin, he might look comical, but knows how to book it. So once he's got his bearings and he's ready to roll, it totally follows suit that the guy is keeping it wheel, y'all. Every day at... One resident of Hamburg, New York said it looked fake, it looked unreal, and many of those who woke up to this last weekend wished it had been. Their homes were encased in ice. The temperature was in the low 20s, and gale force winds were buffeting large waves across Lake Erie. When they crashed to the shore, the mist coated the houses, creating a frozen winter wonderland that some were worried would damage their homes. We've heard of water damage, but that's ice, baby! And though it looked eerie, it's probably likely throughout the region. Icy conditions there are just superior. Our friends near Petoskey might see it in Michigan, folks in Canada might be hearing about it, and some upstate New Yorkers may see it one day and think, Ontario, no. We've got some bears watching today from... So one of many things I never saw coming when I started anchoring were the memes that you guys would make. My staff has picked out a few of them, mostly from Twitter, and I'm going to tell you what I think. So here we go. What's Carl thinking about? He's probably a little concerned about the memes we're going to show you. And that would be why. Why am I dressed like Mr. Peanut? I need to keep an eye out for a monocle like that one. Oh my. Hey, this looks like Mario's delivering your pizza. Hey guys, we pepperoni need more food puns. Wow, this one is awesome. I should probably say, it rules. What else we got? Yeah, baby, Pundiana Jones. Check it, it's kind of like Raiders of the Lost Dork. Oh, I remember this one. I think the person who tweeted it asked who wore it best. I totally think I did. That's not a knock on Timberlake. It's just that I didn't need it to be the 90s to rock that sweet turtleneck. Ah! Okay, I've actually seen this one too. This is truly a work of art. I think they ought to name it Mona Zusa. I gotta say, that was pretty meme of you. I wonder if those were made by meme girls or by meme machines. Maybe they were manufactured on meme streets. I could say, this meme's war, but I don't have the memes to fight back. So by all memes, if you find memeing and making memes of meme or someone else, there's probably something memeing in all of them. I'm Carl Azuz. We're going back to Maine before... Okay, you heard phrases like eliminating car ownership and right around the corner, but you also heard words like prototype and test car. To be clear, experts say a cityscape with fully self-driving cars is likely to be decades away, and whether this would work in the country is another question entirely. For the present, even with all the technology available to us, drivers are still autonomous, mostly in control. And even if driverless cars seem the technological next step, the intelligence of smart cars is still artificial. So smart design will have to take the driver's seat if people are to take a backseat role on the road ahead. I'm Carl Azuz, and I break for CNN. We can't say if the meals offered by this food truck are human grade, but that's kind of the point. It's a food truck for dogs. Wolf Bowl rolls around the Virginia area serving hamburgers, tacos, donuts, and drinks, again, for dogs. The human couple that runs it say they wanted to give fresher, healthier options to animals than some dog food and treats typically provide. And like other food trucks, they sometimes sell out. There are Dobermany options, you could say poodles of them, for specialty dog chow chow. Breakfast could be a Great Danish, a bagel, or an English muffin mastiff. For lunch, an Aussie Shepherd meat pie with a bowl of Yorkshire pudding. And dinner, try the char pei or kipperkey with a side of bichon fries. Maltese milk and Earl Grey hounds are drink options, and dessert can include a Boston cream pie terrier with Labrador snickerdoodles. I'm Carl Azuz. It's funny that we end at steak. Wrapping up in New York City, which has held a number of superlatives when it comes to height. In 1929, the Chrysler Building was the tallest in the world. 2 years later, the Empire State Building took that title from it. And now, One World Trade Center is the tallest in the city, though not the world. But not every high point is a skyscraper. Sometimes it's a sky deck.
You can see the entire city all in one shot. Everything from the Statue of Liberty all the way around to Central Park. And it really is the only place in the city where you can get a view of all of the major icons and the whole city in one shot and one breath. I'm standing on the glass floor, and this is probably one of the best spaces that we have. If I look down, I can look down over 1,100 feet straight down to 10th Avenue. And this is really a unique view and a unique experience. You can stand, look around, see the cars going by. I think a lot of people will lay down, take the selfies from above. This will become the iconic shot. Once you get up to the top, we're not going to really be encouraging people to leave. We're really going to let people experience it how they want to. Some people will come up very quick. We know during sunset time, people will stay a bit longer, but we're going to really let it feel organic and not try to manage people once they get up to the top. These are very, very strong glass pieces and it's structurally designed so that there is no way that we could put enough people on here to be anywhere close to any weight limit. So it's perfectly safe. We could have everybody all over looking down, no problems at all. When you look out, you don't see any railings, any bars, anything like that. The glass itself is the structure. And that was really designed for a number of reasons, but the main one is to give an unobstructed view. You know, we call ourselves Edge. When you walk out, it really is like you can walk off to the edge. We really don't want people to think of us as an observation deck. We have a number of experiences that we're really trying to be more than that and really give a different type of experience. This is really about having unique elements that are unique to us here at Hudson Yards and unique to Edge, and looking down to the city is something that it's the only place you'll be able to do it in New York.
or New Amsterdam. The cutting edge may leave thrill seekers glassy-eyed, and while some will like it because it's edgy and others will be put on edge, you too might not like people walking all over the edge, and acrophobics certainly won't want to hit the deck. They'd rather stay below deck and keep a more grounded altitude about the viewing party above, even if the edge is the height of observation posts. It's great to have... For 10 out of 10, 2. As in 2 little baby cheetahs. Their populations are believed to be decreasing in Africa, but they're on the up and up at the Columbus Zoo. One of the new cubs is a female who weighed about 3/4 of a pound at birth. The other, a male, tipped the scales at a pound. The zoo says it's raised many cheetah cubs before, and some have bonded with their human caretakers, allowing them to monitor the animal's health during births like this one. We've no intention of cheetahing you out of puns here. It's become a habitat of ours. Cat's the reason some of you love to watch, and chasing some down helps us make strides in creative writing. So there's Savannah no way we'd sprint away without cubbing up with 3 or carnivore or more. After all, we're always on the hunt. I'm Carl Azuz. Cheetahs are joined by the riveting rescue of Rockstar Freddy. Of course it's worth 10 out of 10. Rockstar Freddy is a teddy. It belongs to a kindergartner in Florida, but for some reason, a first grader threw it onto the roof of the school, and the teddy bear's owner was crushed. But that's when the Cape Coral Fire Department got involved. They were probably relieved Rockstar Freddy wasn't a cat, and they pulled out all the stops to pull the teddy off the roof. So they didn't need to raise the roof to save the stranded teddy. You betty that they're ready when there's a bare need for Freddy. They held steady and they didn't blush. Even if the thing was plush, bet you that it's still a rush saving something stuffed. Call it fluff, call it guff, but don't ever say they bluffed because Freddy's now home safe and for his owner, that's enough. Pun raps are unbearable, y'all. I'm Carl Azuz, and today's show goes out to Palestine Wheat. These are not normal times worldwide, but they are bringing out the best in those people who are willing to help. These folks in Italy, for example, who are under lockdown, are applauding all of the medical workers out caring for the sick. One woman in Oregon went into a store and did the grocery shopping for an elderly couple who were afraid to go inside. And with schools out, there are concerns that students on free or reduced price lunch programs might not get enough to eat. Basketball star Steph Curry and his wife are among those people helping raise money in relief for that. The hashtag Corona Kindness is being used in social media to draw attention to stories like these, and we think those who are participating are kind of like Fridays. They're awesome. It is this kind of kindness, when kind people help others in kind out of the kindness of their hearts, that kind of makes this kind of situation almost kind of bearable. We hope all of you... For 10 out of 10, who let the penguins out? The short answer is the Shed Aquarium in Chicago, Illinois. The facility is closed to visitors to help prevent the spread of coronavirus, so its resident rockhopper penguins were allowed to leave their habitat there and explore. This one, named Wellington, made a beeline to the fish. Yes, they may look bigger than what he normally eats. No, you can't pick him up and take him home. We knew we might get a welling ton of requests from people fishing for answers about Ping when they could rock hop on over there and flip Wellington to pet status, but your Antarctica can't just do that, even though we can enjoy watching his field trip while we stay home from ours. Hey, speaking of staying home... So what are professional athletes doing with so many of their games canceled? Some are still playing video games. In fact, a number of European soccer players are getting involved in a FIFA tournament in which each team picks one player to represent it online. We don't know what the prize is, besides maybe bragging rights, but whether it's FIFA or Fortnite, there's a chance the person you're playing and maybe beating is a pro athlete. Unfortunately, virtual winnings also come with virtual prize money. But it's cool to think that a League of Legends might be playing League of Legends, practicing their Minecraft of the battlegrounds of a battle royale, whether this turns into a months-long global offensive or hopefully just lasts for a fortnight or two. I'm Carl Azuz. Joseph Case Jr. In Roman mythology, Juno was Jupiter's wife. So what? Well, Juno is also the name of the NASA spacecraft that was sent to study Jupiter in 2011.
and you're looking at one of the photos that the $1.1 billion mission recently sent back to Earth. Jupiter may be a giant ball of gas, but it sure is purty. And as a number of reporters put it, this picture can help get your mind off what's happening on Earth for the time being. Sad, turning your attention far away from home, making heads spin like Jupiter where only Juno roams. You don't have to be mercurial to want to make a change, just Neptune in to a distant spacecraft range. It's a Marsing, and aside from Pluto, who would pen it? It lets us make puns like we didn't even plan it. Okay, that's enough of that. Today's show, our last stop. Okay, I know these are strange times, but why would you call police on a family of ducks? Well, the reason was that they were in a dangerous part of town, one with people and traffic and not a lot of good places to roost. So a police officer in Lakeland, Florida appeared on the scene to make sure they were all right and then escort them to a nearby lake where they could get back to being ducks. The police say there's always something to smile about. And to keep you smiling, or groaning, we would never duck out on the chance to try to quack you up with some foul-sounding duck puns. Because whether you're mandarin to them, thinking they're just ducky, or if you find them teally annoying, I happen to think that they could help with almost any malady. And I'll send you my bill. I'm Carl Azuz. Last stop. Isoperimetric is a word you don't hear very often, and that's just the kind of robot this is. It's made of air-filled tubes and machines that change its shape by moving its corners. That makes it able to hold up a basketball, or do this. Its engineers say it could eventually help with space exploration. I think they ought to apply it to those inflatable dancing tube characters you see outside car dealerships. Because they're already full of hot air, the machines could give them a bit of Gangnam Style. Nobody ever saw something like that before. Of course, they'd do a great robot until they started breaking, and then they'd be left in limbo. It would take a Lindy hop, skip, and a jump to the nearest trash dance, because like they say, here today, Congamara. Alice Deal. Another alternative sport we're following today is Hungry Hungry Hippo's life-sized edition. Forget about the old school board game. A nursing home in Wales, United Kingdom came up with a creative way to keep its residents busy. The object of the game is to capture as many colored balls as possible using what looks like baskets on broomsticks. But it's safe to say that a lot of laughter and a lot of smiles were captured here as well. What a great idea. And it boggles the mind why more people don't take the trouble to connect four, get a clue, and scrabble together a board game when they're bored. It's an easy, low-risk operation that stimulates the cranium across multiple categories in this pursuit of the trivial, and you can yet see why not Uno person is sorry when enjoying this game of life. All right. This isn't just another way folks are staying in shape while under lockdown. It is probably a world record, at least for this Frenchman's balcony, because he's not just taking laps on it, he's running a marathon. But Carl, you might be saying, his balcony's only 23 feet across. That's right. He says it took about 3,000 laps and that he completed the feat in 6 hours and 48 minutes. Keep in mind, he had to stop and turn around every 23 feet, which is itself a feat. Or a defeat for his feet, because with all the about faces, it makes for harder races as you're taking all these paces without going any places. He amazes as he pushes forth, always turning back and forth. Reebok, Nike, Saucony should all sponsor his balcony, where with his runner's pride, he takes it all in stride. All right, I'm Carl Azuz. Before we skip out, we're skipping stones. The Guinness World Record for the most skips with a rock is 88. But it helps if the water is calm and smooth. It wasn't on the shores of Lake Michigan when this competition was recorded last summer, and a new record wasn't set. But a man did manage to skip a stone across the choppy surface 20 times, and for that, he received some goblets from the Mackinac Island Grand Hotel, stuffed with $200. Now that's something to marvel at. The skipper's definitely worth his basalt. He started with a clean slate, took nothing for granted, got ready for a felled sparring match, utterly pummelsed the competition. Hey listen, skipping stones is hard. It's no wonder the winner is a rock star. Is it any coincidence? American bison, aka buffaloes, can grow to be 6.5 feet tall and weigh 2,000 pounds. So when a herd approached KTVM's Dion Broxton while he was reporting at Yellowstone National Park,
Oh my God.
oh no, he wasn't messing with it. After socially distancing himself, he shot this video of the animals that had gotten too close. Yellowstone says Broxton did the right thing. The closest I've been to bison is at Ted's Montana Grill. But if one ever got oxnoxious in person, I also would have said, bye, son, because while they may be vegetarians, it's still wise to hoof it. No one wants beef with a buffaload of trouble that could ruin your whole bova day. I'm Carl Azuz. Shout out to our viewers at... Here's a video worth 10 out of 10. The Georgia Aquarium is among many places that are closed to the public, but that doesn't include puppies. And they're not there to feed the fish, if you know what I'm saying. The Atlanta Humane Society recently took a couple adoptable puppies for a play date near some of the world's largest fish tanks. Was it cute? Yes. Were they interested in the marine animals? Not particularly. Though they're still just puppies. But maybe later on downstream they'll get interested in dogfish, Doberman Perchers, Shark Pays, Amberjack Russells, Bass Hounds, Poor Beagles, or Bulldog Sharks. I'm Carl Azuz. At Michigan's Grand Traverse Academy, it's a tradition to notify students in person when they become valedictorian or salutatorian. But because the school's closed due to COVID-19, the principal had to get creative.
You are GTA's 2020 class valedictorian.
I am.
You are.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
And as far as the salutatorian announcement went, well, the principal got creative with that too. Some people might choose to drive through that kind of excitement, but who can keep it all bottled up? When your principal mission is to be salutatorian your top 2 students, but all the doors are closed, sometimes you gotta open a window or drive up to one to wish them your congratulations, and then you can take your valedictory lap. Windhoek International. In a town of northern Wales, United Kingdom, the wild goats that roam the hillside don't usually fan out along the streets. But because people there are being told to stay home to avoid coronavirus, the streets are quieter than usual, and these are now homes where great Orm Kashmiri goats roam. One resident said he didn't mind because he didn't have to trim the hedge as often, but if you wake up one morning to find they've eaten your garden, well, it's gonna get your goat. It'd make anyone gruff at the idea, even if they're not named Billy. If the kids get out of hand, you'll have to call nanny. If that doesn't work, I bex you'll have to pass the buck. But sooner or later, things will get back to normal, and there's just not gonna be a ruminant in town for everyone. I'm Carl Azuz. In NBA news, it looks like the Dallas Mavericks have defeated the Phoenix Suns. But Carl, you may be saying, the NBA has suspended its season because of coronavirus. Well, at least on Twitch, you can see from the score how things were looking in this recent virtual face-off between the two teams, or gamers playing on behalf of the two teams in NBA 2K20. Yeah, it looks pretty realistic except for maybe the score. And you can tell how the technology has made a magic fast break and become more elite since the March Madness of 08, the shootout of 98, and the hoops of 88. It's all an example of how high voltage electronic arts have come more than midway in achieving acclaim in video concepts. I'm Carl Azuz, gaming with puns on CNN 10. The American School of London has been... Special delivery earns 10 out of 10. In northern Maine, along the U.S. border with Canada, there's still plenty of snow on the ground, and that gives Hannah Lucas and her sled dogs plenty of opportunity to make deliveries. Lucas moved to northern Maine so she could train her dogs for racing. Now, with 12 dogs and 2 human helpers, they take groceries and medical supplies to elderly people in the area, traveling between 50 and 75 miles a day on sled. But for her and the dogs, it's not too much trouble. For those who receive their help, they're iditarodical. Some, when thinking about their generosity, might get husky-voiced. But this is when it's a good thing to go to the dogs. It proves that when you embark on a new trail, even if the going gets rough, Fridays are pawsome. Last mention of the week... There have been seismic changes around the world during the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, and we mean that literally. With lockdowns in place around the world, there are fewer vibrations in the earth that are normally caused by highway traffic, trains, buses, people moving around, going about their daily lives. The relative quietness has led to what scientists call less seismic noise, and that has made it easier for them to detect events like small earthquakes. So this is all a shakeup, but not tectonically. People still wake up, but they meet electronically. The ground has shifted. It's changed the nations. The footing is shakier. There are fewer good vibrations. This fault in our world and its seismic fate make a troubling historic time and plate. I'm Carl Azuz. Our last stop today is in Roseville. Retired soccer goalkeeper Sepp Meyer is known as the Cat because he has incredible reflexes. But he's got nothing on this cat. Save. 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 Who says being quarantined with a cat is a bad time? Even if you bend it like Beckham, this flying feline's finesse finishes every shot, leaving you speechless like cat's got your tongue. Ronaldo, don't even try it. You Suarez, what could happen? There's just no Rooney for victory when the cat bails across the hallway, Peleing out to claw down every shot till the game is done. His efforts pierce modern and erstwhile strikers, leaving them all in a messy. Okay, forget cats. For 10 out of 10, it's not every day you get to use the word siphonophore. Then again, it's not every day you get to see one that looks like giant circles of silly string. This is a sea creature, or really a whole colony of them, that was recently captured on camera curly-cued in the Indian Ocean. The Schmidt Ocean Institute says this could be the biggest siphonophore ever recorded, with an outer ring that stretches 154 feet. I've made a pun on a siphonophore siphona before. First, I strung together 3 ocean puns like it was a sight to see, it made waves, and then I was able to siphon off 4. They're always fun to string along, even if they're a bit silly. I guess whether or not you like ocean puns depends on your depth perception. I'm Carl Azuz. Mitchell Pennsylvania is burying its graffiti highway once and for all. The 3/4-mile stretch of road has been closed since 1993 because the coal that runs beneath it had been burning for decades. But after the road was covered with graffiti, it became an unofficial tourist attraction, despite being extremely dangerous. With crowds gathering there during the coronavirus pandemic, the highway's private owner decided to cover the highway with dirt, and the company doing that says it'll probably be planted with trees and grass. If covering it was a crime, that'll now be covered up. Officials have plenty of dirt on the vandals, and while they've all hit the road by now thinking they're graffiti, it's still sad when art gets buried and burned. It seems a low way for a highway to go. Before we go, forget wearable tech. Let's have a look at some sweet paintable tech. This may look like a dude ruining his wall, but check out what this paint can do. Turn on light. Adjust brightness. Okay, it's not actually the paint that does this. Touch-sensitive copper cutouts are created. They can then be spray painted for added effect. And using the magic of computers, this can help people change their lighting without a switch, or change the channel without a remote. MIT researchers hope this will make homes and cities smarter. Of course, you could always use a switch or a remote, but this paints a tempting picture for the touchy sort of control freak who's so sensitive he gets tackled about the Internet of Everything's being at his fingertips. Fridays are awesome. I'm Carl Azuz, the Panther. If you've ever stopped what you're doing, looked up at the sky and thought, whoa, I wonder what the Hubble Space Telescope could see on my birthday, well, now you can know. The observatory was launched into orbit in 1990. It's been maintained and upgraded through numerous spacewalks, and all this has come at a cost to the U.S. that approaches $10 billion. But as it's whirled around the world at 17,000 miles per hour, it's taken some incredible images of the universe beyond it, and there have been so many pictures throughout the year that NASA says it has one for your birthday. Not the year, of course. That would weed out anyone born before 1990. But if you know the month and date of your birth, even if that's February 29th of a leap year, Hubble has taken a picture of space that NASA will share with you. And some would say, NASA pretty cool. Maybe they'd call it hubbling that they're not hubbled by time and space. It's fun to become universed in what you can galaxy from the great beyond. Just hubble on over to your computer, maybe with a slice of Hubble pie, and take the trouble to appreciate a whole scope of possibilities. Okay, that's enough of that. Grand Forks Central... If you're a fan of ligers and tigons, you're gonna love this zonkey. And I'm not just being wonky. On the right side of your screen here, you see an animal that wildlife workers say is part donkey and part zebra. They say the zonkey and his mom are doing really well, and this is not fake news or a really late April Fool's joke. Zonkies are rare, but they do exist, and the ones we've seen look mostly like donkeys, but with some really amazing socks. Of course, not all the animals find him amusing. The horses think he's horsing around, the monkeys think he's monkeying around, and the hyenas just can't stop laughing at him. But when you think about it, the zonkey has the best of both worlds. He's earned his stripes, he still gets his kicks, and if you ask if he's fast, he haulin'. North Carolina Leadership Academy is... Calving isn't just for cows. It's also the term for when chunks of ice break off from a glacier, like this here glacier in Alaska. Susan Haddix was there on April 11th when the Portage Glacier was cracking. So she was able to set up her camera to capture this incredible slow motion footage of the calving, which thankfully didn't hurt anyone. She says some people were very close, so this is a reminder of the dangers out on the ice. Well, that puts today's show on ice. It was fun chilling with you. I know that when I drop these puns, I get some cold, or dare I say glacial stares, but it's fun to unleash a cavalcade of them, even if they get me a frosty reception. All right, Avon High School is no... How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck would? None if he had pizza. A woman in Philadelphia says she noticed her dogs were looking intently out the glass door, and on the other side, looking right back at them, was this merry munchin' marmot, as the groundhog gorged himself on a stray piece of pie. This apparently went on for an hour before the ravenous rodent wrapped his refection and rambled away. Who would chuck the chance to capture a varmint like a marmot, carving out the time to groundhog every pizza pie he could? It's a cheesy slice of life that would leave even the crustiest rodent hungry for Groundhog Day. Rochester Beacon Academy. Gyms closed, many national parks are closed. Unless you happen to have your own granite outcropping, there are just not that many places to go rock climbing. So an arborist went into an old barn and built his own. It took Noah Peck about 3 days to construct a wall he could scale. He uses old tree stumps to fashion new climbing handholds. And while most people stop when they hit the wall, that's where Peck gets started on his workouts. So Noah pecked a great way to stay in shape, and it's easy to see how he got roped into it. Oh sure, some might lay back or choose to belay around all day, but climbers tend to be bolder than that. The very idea repels Noah. They're not afraid to take up a mantle that totally rocks. I'm Carl Azuz, the... Back on the water's surface, we thought we'd surf to shore. But Carl, there are lockdowns. That's not a problem for Thomas Servetti. He hadn't been surfing since January, so he made this sweet stop-motion video from his apartment, and now, at least it looks like he's doing what he loves to do. Servetti used sheets, pillowcases, towels, and a lot of creativity to complete the scene. The only problem is, when he wipes out, it's like hitting his head on hardwood. Oh, maybe there are no aerials, but you're still floored. But if the waves and opportunities are flat and you're too tense to hang loose at home, why not wax the floor, line up your camera, and kick out some sick surfing videos? They're sure to win you a perfect CNN 10. To the students of Roane County High School, thanks for hanging CNN 10 with us from Spencer, West Virginia. I'm Carl Azuz. An emergency room doctor named Jason Barnes has this sweet treehouse in his backyard in Texas, so he moved into it. His wife suggested this, but it's not because she's mad at him. They're concerned about his family's potential exposure to COVID-19. The doctor's new digs has air conditioning, a bed, a cooler with a jar of pickles if he gets hungry, and it allows him to keep his family safe while still staying close to home. It might not be built on rock, but it's as strong as oak, and you can't sway him from it. Now, some people say tree houses are for the birds, but those who dog it are barking up the wrong tree. If he puts down roots there and gets all sappy about it, he may never want to leave. It's terrible. Don't blame me for our puns. Blame our viewers, like those at Mount Vernon High School in Mount Vernon, Indiana, for putting up with them. You guys are awesome, by the way, for doing that. I'm Carl Azuz for CNN. Among the many things you don't want to see approaching your house, a 30-foot tall wall of ice. Of course, it's going to be more likely in places like this lakeside community in Minnesota. This is an ice shove. It's what happens when ice starts to melt on the lake and the wind shoves it toward the shoreline where it piles up. It can damage homes, and officials say all you can do is hope and or pray that the wind starts blowing in the other direction. Because while people generally like rock walls, ice sculptures, and water features, it's not going to melt anyone's heart to see Elsa's magic frozen in his backyard. It may look cool as ice, but it'd turn up the heat on anyone who wants to move to where a lake house doesn't become an ice house. I'm Carl Azuz, Valley. We're not done virtually traveling yet. Picture Venice, Italy. The architecture, the history, the canals, the jellyfish. The jellyfish? Yes, the jellyfish pushing through the water right near St. Mark's Square. Italy's under lockdown. Traffic is light on Venice's canals. A biologist says the sediment has sunk down to the bottom, revealing clearer waters at low tide. So jellyfish and other marine life are easier to spot. Like mussels? Well, you can see those at Venice Beach. But the ones in Italy have gained a lot of attention because it doesn't seem Rialto that such a grand display can now be seen. We're thankful the jellyfish took the lead-o on that, showing us what's beneath the surface. Hey, we hear the Mustangs. It's not uncommon for a new sports stadium to cost more than $1 billion to construct, but it's not every day they look like this. At a projected final cost of $1.7 billion, construction has started on what will be the world's largest stadium devoted only to soccer. Capacity, 100,000 people. It'll be located in southeastern China and is set to open by the end of 2022. The distinctive lotus flower design was created by an American architect. I like that idea for U.S. college football stadiums. For instance, you could have the Louisville Cardinal flower, the Texas longstem, the Mississippi lily of the valley state. How about the California golden button or the Georgia Tech yellow sage? The Kentucky wildflower and Arizona State sunflower would be nice, but it would be tough to beat the Notre Dame fighting iris. Woo! All right, Jeeps became famous for their role, get it, in helping move the Allies around the planet during World War II. But now, they're playing a part in another battle. This seemingly endless line of Wranglers recently rolled through the streets of Atlanta, Georgia in a show of support for medical workers. Several Jeep clubs teamed up to make this happen. The event's organizer says it's the least they could do for those on the front lines of the coronavirus fight. We're glad he could wrangle enough people to take part. You know they're all four-wheel, and while the sight of so many express UVs could make you say Jeepers, there is nothing Jeep about the utility of big-hearted, wide-tire people when they've all got drive. I'm Carl Azuz. NASCAR racer Denny Hamlin recently finished last at Talladega. Okay, it wasn't a real race. NASCAR has postponed its events because of coronavirus, but the online game Hamlin was in came to an abrupt end, for him anyway, when his daughter accidentally disconnected him from the server.
Hey, my screen just went black.
Uh-oh was right. Daddy Hamlin wasn't too happy when the 7-year-old forced him into last place. Maybe for punishment she could just take a lap. But she might be happy that his Talladega got away. It wasn't all fun and games. Maybe he seemed too socially distant. And even if she had to peel out after making his game crash and burn, it's still supposed to be fun when your family comes to the race. We've got some viewers from across the... Our last report today is about perseverance and ingenuity. Perseverance is the name of NASA's Mars 2020 rover that's scheduled to launch this summer. And Ingenuity is the name of the drone helicopter it'll be carrying. It's about 2.5 feet tall, it weighs 4 pounds, it cost $23 million to develop, and it won't be carrying any scientific instruments. Ingenuity is mainly going along to demonstrate the technology. And while scientists built it, an Alabama high school student named it. It was like a stroke of ingeniousness. Hey, helicopter naming takes a true fan. There's nothing they'd rotor be doing. They're not afraid to give it a whirl, take it for a spin, make their pitch, rock and roll, because hey, when it comes to naming aircraft, sky's the limit. After starting with coronavirus and murder hornets, we thought we'd end today's show on something silly. A series of silly walks, for instance. A family in California designated part of a sidewalk outside their home as a silly walking zone. It orders people to immediately start walking sillily, and passers-by have taken it siliously. Their walks are recorded on a security camera and shared on social media. There are people like me who can talk a silly talk, but it's a true feat of 2 feet to walk a silly walk. The view from their window is like a trip parade, and it could take a stroll on people. I mean, right out of the gate, the change of pace could make them perambulate if they don't take it all in stride. I could amble on about... My sportscasting abilities are going to the dogs. The gate is up, Little Stretch makes a late surge, she's across in a thrilling finish. Much more energy than the last heat when Longshot had that tripping problem. Guess not every dog's a wiener. But what do professional sportscasters do when there are no live games to call?
With no opposable thumbs, high risk at this stage. And it's gone, and Mabel takes it. No mercy from the younger dog.
Now it's all about the asparagus. Courtney's got the angle. She's got the pan. It's out of here! Asparagus and potatoes! Asparagus and potatoes!
Mercy Richards, the 12-time champion with the trolley. How does she keep doing it year after year?
Here they come. They've completed lap number 5. You got Lexi in the lead. Louie tried to track her down. Here's Louie to the inside. They'll back away. Oh, Millie gets in the way. They make contact.
Crossroad dash, light turns to red. We wait for the beats. There they are now then. JD Sportsman, he's got a decent start. Leggings on the outside. Oh, JD Sportsman's been distracted over the shoulder, and Leggings is going to get there. Oh, she does it again.
That's the way to mic the best of it. When you can't use the press box, you could still use your voice box. When you can't hit the links, you could still use your larynx. So if you're aiming to strike a chord with viewers who can only watch from phone, you just take a deep breath, make the right call, and fans will be vocal in their support. Aviano Middle High. 10 out of 10. At Kentucky's Pikeville High School, there's a sort of unofficial senior superlative, most likely to appear on a poster in downtown Pikeville, and all 80 seniors won it. Like so many other schools during the coronavirus pandemic, Pikeville canceled prom, graduation, sports, and senior events. So city firefighters hung posters of the graduates to honor them and their parents with a drive-through yearbook. So maybe COVID had the year booked up, but Pikeville's moved to put the yearbook up on downtown streets made for celebrations. A way to tell seniors congratulations, because even without the sports trips and dances, it still shows pomp in tough circumstances. All right, let's turn the page. It's been 144 years since Ross Barnes hit the first home run in National League Baseball history. It's been 105 years since Babe Ruth hit his first home run. 66 years have passed since Hank Aaron hit his first dinger. And this spring, Asher Willig launched his first shot over the fence. Of course, no one was in the stands for that hit, but the crowd still went wild.
It was the home run that hit home, not so much because of the ball going over the fence as for the dad going out of his mind. Corey Willig, himself a former professional baseball player and now instructor, celebrated his son's first home run. Let's go! Celebrated it for longer than it took 4-year-old Asher to circle the bases.
I was ecstatic because I know how much went into this. I know how many swings he's taken.
During our interview, Asher was the MVP of mugging for the camera, giving us a look in his mouth, at his teeth, even showing a little shoulder. Father and son had spent quarantine time practicing in front of their home. Asher hitting with such gusto, someone wondered, how are the house's windows still intact? The home run happened the same day George's stay-at-home order was lifted.
He had so much energy balled up, and he just wanted to get out there and go.
Asher has plenty of swagger on deck. He likes to tap the plate, and he loves to flip the bat. This baseball prodigy went viral once before. At 22 months, his bat handling got him invited on Jimmy Fallon's show for a hitting contest with A-Rod. A contest that Asher ostensibly won, with A-Rod predicting has to react to his first homer. This slugger of few words pronounced himself
Happy?
his father's pitching as
Fast.
and what he wants to be when he grows up.
Acuna?
That would be Ronald Acuna Jr., star outfielder of the Atlanta Braves, who applauded Asher's home run with emojis. But watch your back, Acuna.
Bombs away!
It's bombs away, all right. Even if it's his dad who detonates. Chinimos. CNN. New York.
He may not be much more than a babe himself, but he's still airing out the ball in a way that Maze You thinks you can banks on him for his musical ability to chipper away at records. After all, where there's a Willig, there's a way. Fridays are awesome, and before we launch into something you may want in your yard, a bird bath. Something you don't want in your yard, a bear bath. Fortunately, this isn't a yard. It's a habitat at the Oregon Zoo, and splish splash, the bear's taking a bath. He even got a toy to keep him entertained while he's soaking. Dakota is the name of this black bear who's been at the zoo since 2010. If you didn't think they could bear bath time, well, seeing is bear leaving. And that's a sign he's enjoying himself, because when you're on the hunt for refreshment, it's always fun to Dakota the pool. I could carry on. Okay, on first glance, this is weird. Hey, it's a cute little squirrel having a cute little snack next to some cute little bottles of raisins, ketchup, and oatmeal. Okay, thankfully there's an explanation. It's art. A student at Carnegie Mellon University was inspired by children's books and the idea of squirrels doing stuff people do. So for an art project, she made tiny kitchen sets, tea sets, and a desk with a notebook computer and an acorn on it, and recorded squirrels hanging out nearby. Needless to say, she got an A. Now, critics might say it was a little nutty, maybe a little too acorny, maybe a little too tree to life, but if you had gathered that much talent, wouldn't you want to show people and not squirrel it away? Beatrix Potter called, and she says you should share it with the whole wide squirrel. I'm Carl Azuz. The robotic dogs we've seen from Boston Dynamics aren't exactly the cuddly, furry sort you want to pick up and snuggle. Then again, this ain't no therapy dog. Its name is Spot. It's not trained, but it is programmed. Its job is to play a pre-recorded message in a human voice to encourage people to practice social distancing. Spot's cameras can also estimate how many people are hanging around. This is a pilot program at a park in Singapore, and if it's successful, more people at more parks could see more Spots in the days ahead. Just the sight of that would make some people scaredy cats, and those who break the law could see Spot as man's best fiend. But if you're not a cat person, you're not dogged by robots, and you're not afraid of a canine crime fighter who's a little McGruff around the edges, you won't mind walking with Spot as long as the project isn't short-circuited. Puyallup High School is... You high school seniors are a symbol of perseverance and courage. In so many cases, you've had to trade events like prom, senior trips, and graduation ceremonies in front of families and friends for virtual graduations and a lot of social distancing. Probably not the trade you would have chosen. But you are part of the first class in history to experience a senior year like this, and people are finding ways to have fun with virtual events.
Lucky me, I'll always have my blurry old graduation photos oblivious to social distancing, tickling a fellow grad with a tassel. But now, what a hassle.
Class of 2020, what is up?
A pandemic is what's up, instead of caps tossed and celebrations on stage. Flesh and blood grads are being replaced
Emily Kristen Allen.
By pictures, you barely have to get dressed for a commencement address.
I'm at home, you're at home.
Pharrell Williams once sang, "Happiness is the truth." But now graduates have to be happy with a video commencement. The most famous celebrity to suffer from the virus told grads at Ohio's Wright State,
"You started in the olden times and the world back before the great pandemic of 2020. You have finished Wright State during, well, the Great Reset."
But leave it to Oprah, appearing on John Krasinski's Some Good News, to find the literal silver lining in a dark cloud.
When it's really dark and dreary on the ground, and then you get in the plane, and within 3 minutes you shoot above the clouds, and you see the sun was always there.
Now, if only we get up the nerve to fly again. Jeannie Mose.
Good luck.
CNN.
Good luck.
New York.
So with all the pomp that circumstances permit when it comes to the class of 2020's commencement, there's no sweating in the sun nor live cheering from a crowd, but history's being made and your families are still proud. So with caps and gowns down but computer screens flipped up, we wish you all congrats and more than virtual luck. God bless the class of 2020. This show goes out to South... It looks like a remote-controlled dune buggy, but this little vehicle has a unique way of getting out of a jam. Its legs, so to speak, can spin, lift, and wiggle, and that could prevent it from getting stuck in sand. So what? Well, NASA had a $400 million Mars rover named Spirit, but its mission ended in 2009 after its wheels got stuck in soft soil. So lessons learned from this mini rover could help prevent that in the future. So when it comes to troubleshooting, that's one way to plan it. Even if it gets soiled and starts seeing red, it should still be able to get over it. And that's a wheelie cool way to ditch the dirt and stay at work without going Marsing in action. Woo! All right, deep run heist week. 10 out of 10? More like 1080. That's what Guy Curry, the 11-year-old skater you see here, recently did on a vert ramp. A 1080 is 3 full spins in the air. It's been done before off a mega ramp, which allows for higher speeds and more airtime, but it had never been documented on a vertical ramp until now. Guy's father says it helped that school is closed and that Guy has a ramp to practice on in his grandmother's garden. The new trick is truly a revolution. Or 3 of them. He's turned up the heat 180 degrees on Tony Hawk. There's nothing fakey, stale fishy, or skate boring about it. When you turn tail thrice without hitting the deck, you're gonna leave head spinning. I'm Carl Azuz. Last story today is about a dog named Moose, who despite a possible identity crisis, has just received an honorary doctorate during a virtual commencement ceremony at Virginia Tech. Moose has been working there as a therapy animal since 2014. He's one of 4 dogs that have participated in more than 7,500 counseling sessions with students. His owner also works at Virginia Tech as a counselor, but it's Moose who just got his degree in veterinary medicine. Of course, he'd never tell the undergrads to moose over. The Labradoctor who just got his dog Ploma is an excellent counselor who's on paw to help students turn tail on whatever's dogging them to retrieve a sense of bona fide well barking. I'm Carl Azuz for CNN 10. That dog might have been a Labrador. It's not every day you meet someone who's been playing video games for 39 years. Then again, it's not every day you meet a 90-year-old YouTuber. Hamako Mori holds the Guinness World Record for being the oldest YouTube gamer. She's known as Gamer Grandma to more than 250,000 subscribers. Back in the day when she started playing, and by that we mean 1981, years before the Nintendo Entertainment System came out, she says she was surrounded by kids who played games and thought they shouldn't be the ones having all the fun. The Japanese nonagenarian started with a cassette vision console and never looked back. So is it really all fun and games? She says she's always game for playing but feels defeated whenever it's game over. Of course, she's able to control and console herself. Nintendo, don't you know you get good at that after PS 40 years of un-Xboxing new games and constantly switching things up? I'm Carl Azuz. Last stop today. Captain Tom Moore of the United Kingdom is having an amazing season. He just turned 100 years old last month. He was hoping that a 100-lap walk around his garden would help Britain's National Health Service by raising £1,000, about $1,200. He raised more than $39 million. That earned him a Guinness World Record for the most money raised by a charity walk. But then, a single he made with British singer Michael Ball went to #1 on the charts. That earned Captain Moore another world record for being the oldest person to hit #1. But then he found out he was being awarded a knighthood for his fundraising. Captain Moore says he's delighted and overawed. There's more than a kernel of truth in saying it's a major honor, generally speaking, for a captain who is able to marshal such a commanding, admirable, and brigadier list of accomplishments he could never keep private. Woo! I'm Carl. To very loosely quote Johnny Nash, I can see clearly now thanks to my bionic eye. Not how the song went, but this is how the science is going. According to research published in the journal Nature, scientists at a Hong Kong university are working on an electrochemical eye. It is not ready for prime time. It can't see much yet. But researchers hope the prototype could eventually work better than a human eye, even managing to provide night vision. It's eye-opening research that aspiring Spider-Men will want to keep an eye on. They have 8 of those anyway. And whether they're crawling on the World Wide Web or squinting through a web of darkness, a bionic eye could knock the cobwebs off and help them envision and set their sights on the night. I'm Carl Azuz. Today's show, we are... Since mid-March, it's been obvious that our set looks a lot less like our news studio and a lot more like my bookshelf. And if you saw our show last Thursday, you would have noticed it looked a lot more like the woods. But in this era of us media types broadcasting from home, there are quite a few critical eyes being cast on our backdrop, so let's see how they're rating things.
Whether it's a cat on a weather forecaster's lap.
That is a big cat.
Or wallpaper.
At home.
So loud it makes your head hurt. These dispatches from home give viewers plenty to read into.
There, you got the books. You seem very smart.
We're going for a prison library.
Even a prison library wouldn't put up with Bill Crystal's messy books.
Look at that. Color-coded books. What should I read tonight? How about something blue?
And viewers aren't just watching. Room Raider at Rate My Skype Room is judging.
It's unhinged.
The Room Raider gave Tom Friedman's backdrop 4 out of 10, saying it's like Panic Room meets After Hours Club. He gave Governor Christie 0.
It's just a gratuitous shot.
Repaint, burn the furniture, make masks from the drapes. Raider Claude Taylor has no interior design credentials. He's just creating
lighthearted social distancing content.
He picks up on toilet paper and crooked lampshades, advises reposition plant to block vent, and when the Raider gave Ken Burns a 9 for his attic,
it's certainty.
Ken Burns himself let the Raider know it's a barn. Everybody's a critic.
Wait, does this guy have a framed picture of himself?
Yep, Chris Saliza tells us it's a photo of his first appearance on CNN some 15 years ago. All of the home judging is enough to drive a reporter outside to clown around. But even outside isn't safe.
It's not exactly clear policy. It's a little windy out here, Andrea.
We give the lights a 10 for falling so symmetrically. Jeannie Mose, CNN, New York.
Let's make that a CNN 10. So what can be said about my backdrop here? That what you C.S. Lewis, what you get? That my literary tastes are Stein back to basics? I kind of like my Hillen brand of bookings. It never gets Fitzgerald, and if I had the choice to make, I'd read into it cover to cover until folks stopped remarking about it. I'm Carl Azuz, Oneida. Still making waves in today's last segment. Splash! Seoul, South Korea is about 20 miles away from the Yellow Sea, but this 3D billboard is bringing the ocean to the city. Even though it looks like a giant tank full of water, it's actually a dry digital image that took 4 months to design and finish, and it can be seen making a splash for 1 minute of every hour. People were split on whether this is relaxing or stressful.
But there's nothing boring about a board that simply cannot be ignored, for making waves like water poured through it inlet or a fjord, drawing tourists who are lured, that anchored like a ship that's moored, watching 3D waves that roared, going back and splashing forward. Watch out if your guard is lowered, because when you see that sight to see, when on land and not at sea, it's intimidating to see waves so inundating. Woo! For 10 out of 10, the heaviest bird on Earth is the ostrich. They can weigh more than 300 pounds. This one is heavier and faker. It's a gigantic 13-foot high, 1,600-pound kookaburra. An Australian artist created it. It's built on a steel frame and covered in a lightweight material. He says when people ask why, he replies, why not? His avian creation is set to be the mascot of a cultural festival in Townsville, Australia. It's almost unkookabereevable, y'all! And even if its creator had gone king fishing for compliments and got laughed out of a birdcage, he's still seeded a lot of smiles and will be sure to get lots of tweets. We will be off the air for a bit, but we'll be big with more episodes this summer, so please stay tuned for that. We saw more viewers this year than we have ever seen before, so thank you for being the best part of CNN 10, for sticking with us, even from home. Shout out to National Autonomous University of Mexico. It's in Mexico City. I'm Carl Azuz. All my best and God bless. For 10 out of 10 today, how do you beat a video of a giant anteater with a video of two giant anteaters? These animals are twins, one boy, one girl. They're the first to be artificially bred at a zoo in China. Bad news for ants. Good news for the anteaters, who are considered to be a vulnerable species. They were placed onto their mother's back, where they typically hang out for a year while learning to hunt insects. They're also known as ant bears, though ants can't bear to be around them. The mammals have an insectivorous appetite, so if ants think they can get away, they're aardvarking up the wrong tree, y'all. I'm Carl Azuz, and that is CNN 10. Heidi Paulette gets 10 out of 10 today. She lives in Maine, and she was having trouble finding puzzles to put together. So she started this neighborhood puzzle swap box and posted about it on Facebook, and since then, the donations have come piling in. She may even have to build a second puzzle box to keep up. Heidi says puzzles are a great stress reliever and a welcome distraction when everything's gone to pieces. So put all those pieces together, and it's not at all puzzling that in the big picture, they fit together to fight card boredom. I'm Carl Azuz, and that's a great fit for CNN. Some high school graduates in New Hampshire are on top of the world, or at least on top of Mount Cranmore. The ski area let Kennett High School use its chairlifts as a makeshift graduation procession. It was a creative solution to social distancing. An assistant superintendent said educators wanted to do something special for their graduates, and the seniors got a pretty impressive photo op to go along with their diplomas. There's no question it gave them a lift. It was a terrible idea, with all the pomp that circumstances would allow, and made for an event that was a sight to ski. I'm Carl Azuz for CNN 10. For 10 out of 10 today, it's like a high-tech pet adoption. This is Spot. It's the famous robot quadruped or four-legged dog-like machine from Boston Dynamics. And now American companies can buy their very own Spot for the price of $74,500. Spot can help businesses open doors, walk over rocks and stairs, entertain employees with the robot running man. It has found uses in factories, research labs, and construction sites. But the question is, will someone spot $75,000 just to see Spot run? You could always retriever a real dog, something more labradorable, even if it's more likely to leave poodles than a robot. I'm Carl Azuz for CNN. A wallaby on the loose in Colorado? 10 out of 10. Surprise! That's the name of the wallaby. Surprise! He's been living in an animal sanctuary south of Denver for 10 years, but somehow he surprisingly got out 2 weeks ago. And earlier this week, Surprise was spotted in a neighborhood 40 miles away. So to recap, in a place that's 8,000 miles away from Australia, people are keeping their eyes peeled for a wayward wallaby. Folks who haven't seen the news might see him and say, well, I'll be. There may not be much room for him in the Colorado Capitol, so those on the lookout better hop to it and look forward to his rescue and surprise party. I'm Carl Azuz. That's a wrap for this week's special summer series of CNN. For 10 out of 10 today, penguins versus dinosaurs. Or at least, penguins observing dinosaurs. The birds are from Chicago's Shed Aquarium. The fossils are from the city's Field Museum. The reason is because cute. It also provided an incredible photo op as the animals waddled around the museum while it was closed because of coronavirus. They've been getting a little more time out and about recently while the crowds were away. But they always let you know, Ping, when it's time to go home because while they may appear frightless, they're still flightless, and it's not like they can just wing their way beat. I'm Carl Azuz, and that's CNN. You might have heard of the Band of Brothers, the Band of Gold, the Band of Married Men. What about the One Love Machine Band? It's a project made up of scrap metal, air pressure pistons, and the imagination of an artist named Kolya Kugla. Here's how it sounds. Of course, they use a drum machine, and one for everything else. It's cool to see how they all banded together, firing on all pistons to make their music play out, and it ends today's show on an up note. For CNN 10, I'm Carl Azuz. For 10 out of 10, C-Spot Run on batteries. This is the Boston Dynamics robot dog we told you about in the spring. It's called Spot, and it's now available for companies to buy for around $75,000. Ford is one such buyer, and this facility has named its new assistant Fluffy, though it's anything but. Fluffy's job is to help engineers develop new car programs, and while it may not be fun to pet, at least it doesn't need to be taken outside. Cause it doesn't make any poodles. It's a kind of working breed, and it's hopping easy to see that Ford's Newfoundland assistant isn't gonna hound anyone to play, and it never needs to take a break for chow chow. I'm Carl Azuz, and that's a wrap for CNN. For 10 out of 10 today, there's probably not a long list of animals you'd want to have watching you sleep. But at a venue in Belgium, that's kind of the point. It's a zoo, it's a hotel, it's a place where you can watch TV and a live walrus in your own living room. Starting at $150 a night, this hotel also features rooms with views of wolves, tigers, and bears. Oh my! So it's kind of like camping with a window to the wild. A window that stays closed, you pray, so you're not prey if the eye of a tiger gets trained on you. Could you bear it? Or would you want to walrus out of there after a sleepless night? It's all food for thought. For CNN 10, I'm Carl Azuz. For 10 out of 10, vroom. This almost looks more like a video game car than a car. It is a car, but you can't drive it on the street. The new Lamborghini Essenza SC V12 is built for the track. It's not street legal. That's why if you buy one, the company recommends that you let Lamborghini store it for you in a garage in Italy. Don't worry, they'll still have a webcam set up so you can look at it whenever you want, and they'll ship it to any racetrack you want when you do decide to drive it. The cost for all this? No official numbers yet, but experts say you'll likely need millions. For many, the price will be the spoiler. Some will say the company's gone too car. But if your transmission is to shift a fortune into unmitigated speed, this car may be all you Lamborghini'd. I'm Carl Azuz for CNN. Life has come full circle for two beluga whales in Iceland. Their names are Little Gray and Little White, and they were captured off the coast of Russia in 2011. They spent some time in a Russian research facility before being moved to an aquarium in China, and a company that bought that aquarium decided to release the belugas, so they're now being reintroduced to the sea in Iceland, where they'll spend their future in an 8-acre sanctuary. We bet they're whaley excited about it. They might have thought their re-echolocation was a fluke until the first one in said, "Baloo, gotta see this." Woo! All right, the students of Desert Hunt. Back in the day, the 1990s, if people wanted to rent a movie, many went to Blockbuster Video. There were once more than 9,000 of these stores worldwide. Now, there's just one. This one in Bend, Oregon. And if you're wondering why there's a bed inside, the manager was planning to celebrate the store's 20th year of being in business when COVID hit. So she converted it to an Airbnb and made it available for folks to book 3 individual nights in September for just $4. That's a penny more than they'd spend renting a newly released movie. The 1990s decor just adds to the ambiance of making it a blockbuster night. True nostalgics will want to bring a camcorder to tape the experience. We don't know if the manager was told to be kind, please rewind to a bygone era, but for all its popcorniness, it is the VH essence of the past, y'all. If you sports car fans were to close your eyes and envision something called the Hyperion XP1, this is probably close to what you'd imagine. It's a prototype for a supercar that would go from 0 to 60 in just over 2 seconds and travel up to 1,000 miles on a single tank of fuel. That fuel would be hydrogen. The car maker hopes to fuel interest in it. Its only emission is water, but hydrogen gas is more expensive and harder to find than gasoline. But could it fuel a new hydro generation of vehicles? Anything with 1,000 horses powering it would be a gas to drive. And for racing, hydrogen's already atomic number 1, y'all. I'm Carl Azuz. Today's show goes out. For 10 out of 10 today, it's not often that driver's license photos are the kind of shots you'd want to repost on Instagram. But one woman in Tennessee recently got a picture that really couldn't prove her identity at all. Yep. That's it, the chair. Oh, she sat in it at one point, and a picture of her was taken, but the one that was selected for the license was a little more generic. Officials admitted their mistake and fixed everything, but the woman and her friends are having fun with the original picture just to lighten the mood. She's kind of the chairperson of bad driver's license photos. Hey, at least the story has legs, 4 of them, and if she went back for an update and they said take a seat, she could reply, it already got its close-up, and it was terrible. I'm Carl Azuz for CNN 10. Sheer pandemonium wraps up our show this Tuesday. This is a birthday party for Xinxing. She's a panda at a zoo in southwest China. What makes her remarkable is her age. Xinxing just turned 38. Pandas in the wild are estimated to live only 20 years, and in captivity, 30. So this particular panda is the human equivalent of 110 years old. She's celebrated with a cake topped with watermelons, carrots, and bamboo shoots. I mean, what else do you give a panda for her birthday? Pandaloons, pantomime lessons? Would a panda ring be too pandering? Hey, look, no matter how you look at it, she's 38. Let's keep that clock's pendulum swinging, y'all. I'm Carl Azuz for CNN. Deer Creek Reservoir in north-central Utah is a popular spot for lakeside recreation. But it was during that kind of recreation that a woman recently lost her wedding ring, which her husband had designed using her grandmother's diamond. She offered $100 for anyone who'd look, and the Wasatch County Search and Rescue Team spent days and dives trying to help. Eventually, they did it. They found the diamond in the reservoir, but they refused the reward. A story with a great ring to it. It's come full circle. We're glad they were able to cut to the chase and carry it to the surface with the clarity of a mission that brings some great color to CNN 10. I'm Carl Azuz. Scientists thought the elephant shrew had been extinct for 50 years. Thankfully, they were wrong. Why thankfully? 'Cause it's cute. It's related to an elephant, but tiny like a mouse. The last time scientists saw one was in the 1970s, but in the African nation of Djibouti, where the elephant shrew was recently rediscovered, local residents had said they'd seen them. These little mammals can run at over 18 miles per hour, faster than some elephants. Maybe they didn't want to be found, so they just shrewd scientists. It's not like you're going to see one at a trunk show. Unlike their thundering relatives, these animals are as quiet as a mouse, and they're hard to catch, even on camera, because they're so shrewd. A safe recently found in Barrie, New York holds a secret that no one may know for a long time. It's unknown where it came from, and it included a note that says anyone who opens it can have what's inside. Thing is, no one's been able to do that. People have used sledgehammers, they've knocked off the dials and worked on the hinges, but the safe still holds its mystery. And the farmer who has it hopes it'll stay that way to give people something fun to debate in troubled times. So for now, he's hidden the 500-pound box. Where? Someplace safe. Of course, there's vaulted interest in it. People are dialed in. Their curiosity hinges on whatever secrets are unlocked, but it may take a crack team. It's a summer tradition to try to catch the ice cream van as it meanders through the neighborhood. You ain't catching this one. It's electric. Boogie, woogie, woogie. And the British inventor who charged it up set a Guinness World Record for fastest electric ice cream van. How fast? Not as fast as a minivan. Its top speed was measured at about 74 miles per hour. But if you're trying to chase down a bomb pop or strawberry crunch on a hot summer's day, you could go nutty, buddy, falling all Ori over yourself with your legs bubble gummed up and feeling like slush as you tried to push up close enough to this ice cream rocket. Woo! I'm Carl Azuz. Could this be the biggest painting ever put on canvas? Yes. Is it realism? No. But it does incorporate real art from kids. This is being painted in the ballroom of a luxury hotel. It's about the size of 4 basketball courts. It's expected to be finished next month, shared around the world, and then cut up into 60 individual panels, which will be auctioned off for charity. The artist hopes it'll raise $30 million to help children in need. So it appears the master work will be cut to masterpieces, but at $500,000 per panel, buyers may need to get leases. You could never hang the whole work up. It's the size of a landmass. Is it worth the weight and paint it takes to cover art that canvas? Rocco Figueretti is a golfer in West Virginia. He's been playing for about a year, and he just hit his first hole-in-one. The kicker? Rocco is 4.
Get there. Get there. Get there. Get in the hole.
It did. An eagle on a par 3 course. The shot caught on camera went viral, and now it's the shot heard round the world. Rocco's father says proud would be an understatement. He told affiliate WTOV that though the boy is right-handed, he swings with a left-handed grip. They don't plan to change that. Why would they? The young Iron Man is already up to par in an elite club. Wonder if he won a prize like a new caddy. The whole truth is that'd be a fair way to make the grade when your goal is straight PGAs. Woo! I'm Carl Azuz for CNN. Today we leave you with waves of blue. Bioluminescence is the reason for this beautiful sight. It took place recently in Southern California. The blue hue is caused by chemical reactions in plankton, which produce the blue light. The Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, which posted this video, says this is a pretty common phenomenon. A study it conducted a few years ago concluded that 75% of deep sea organisms produce their own light. Does that make them ultramarine? They certainly seem to cerulean toward producing a jolly royal sight that makes the Pacific terrific beneath the peri-twinkling stars at midnight. Earning a perfect 10 out of 10 today, it's morning rush hour in Perth, Western Australia. You go to have a look at a traffic camera to see how your commute's shaping up, and it's photobombed by a Corella bird. The animal is native to Australia, it's not native to traffic cameras, and this one didn't just hang out and block the shot. It perched, played, preened, and posed, at least until another cockatoo came and stopped the show. He wasn't just a cockatoo, he was cocky too, and while he parroted his bill for you, he blocked the shot up too. Was he on the crest of beaking news without words? If so, this traffic report's on the wing and for the birds. Woo! Tweet. I'm Carl. The Transportation Security Administration has more than 1,000 canine teams patrolling America's airports, and this one is the cutest. I'm not giving an opinion here. The TSA has an annual contest for cutest canine of the year, and Kayla is the 2020 winner. She's a 5-year-old Vizsla who works at Honolulu International Airport as an explosive screener. You still can't pet her while she's working, but she'll still probably wag as she passes by. She's making the grade with straight TSAs, and she's proving that you don't need to look Shar-Pei or be Labradorable to retrieve her first prize in a cuteness contest. You just need to sniff out an opportunity and Vizsla. A penguin watching a show about penguins. 10 out of 10. This is Pierre. He's an endangered rockhopper penguin who is found in Australia in need of medical attention. Because of a feather molting issue, he's got to stay out of the water.
But thankfully for Pierre, there's no limit on his screen time, and he loves to binge watch anything related to penguins. The zoo that's helping him is looking to get him together with other rockhopper penguins in person. So help is just a rock, hop, skip, and a jump away, but at least his virtual interactions fit the bill for now. It shows he's able to channel his energy into screening quality entertainment because he gives a flipper about penguin things get back to normal. Yeah. We're still years away from saying, sure, I'll drive right over. I should be landing in 15 minutes. But the Japanese company that made this hopes that'll be a reality in 2023. It has 8 motors and is about the size of 2 regular cars. Its maker says it's the world's smallest electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicle. It still needs more safety and technology tests, and we have no idea how much it'll cost. But it's got an awesome name, Cartivator. Well, it is carptivating, it's charismatic, it's state of the cart, and it captures a lot of interest. It's carpelling to look at, and it could be the cars of new developments. I mean, all in all, I'd say it's pretty fly, y'all. I'm Carl Azuz for CNN 10. Reporting on this last segment was butter. A whole lot of it. An annual butter sculpture is part of the New York State Fair. That's been canceled this year because of the coronavirus pandemic, but the dairy artists, yes, there are dairy artists, they fashioned a new sculpture anyway, and it was presented virtually this week. It took roughly 800 pounds of New York State butter and 10 days for the husband and wife team to create the buttery scene. And ain't it just enough to melt your heart? It's quite a spread. I'd say their ability to churn out things like that shows they've got the process down pat. It always causes quite a stir in the butter world, and does it take talent? You'd better believe it, y'all. Woo! No one knows yet if COVID-19 will have lasting effects on our society or what those would be. But Burger King, which has seen a significant bump in drive-thru sales during the pandemic, is saying this could be the fast food restaurant of the future. Lots of drive-thru lanes, a delivery driver lane, a mobile pickup cabinet, burgers moving through conveyor belts. Other franchises are also planning to make more room for cars and less for diners. Will this mean faster food? The burgers will be on the move. Of course, fewer people will be chewing the cud indoors, but the changes are all about cause and effect. Yeah, it's all bun and games on CNN 10. I'm Carl Azuz. A flying V ain't just a historic guitar, it's also a model aircraft and a possible glimpse of what's to come. Dutch engineers recently gave this design a test flight. Passengers, fuel, and cargo would all fit inside the wings, and the flying V would theoretically save fuel over the modern tried-and-true jet design. But it still needs work. It's prone to Dutch roll, which is described as being like ice skating and can lead to rough landings. And of course, the engineers want all the landings to be happy ones down to the letter. The letter V. So they won't let this V as it is. That could be a mistake. They're vehement about getting this right because if it comes to V, it could be another victory for aviation. In the 1980s, an avant-garde composer named John Cage wrote a musical piece entitled As Slow as Possible. To play it would take 639 years. A church in Germany accepted that challenge in 2001, and if all goes according to plan, the performance will wrap up in 2640. So why is this making news now? Because just last weekend, the piece made its first chord change in 7 years. The next one won't happen until 2022. It's definitely a piece for the ages with no sudden movements. But adagio? Critics would say adagi no! They'd rather go do something different. They andante want to wait for something that adagi slow. Musical puns. They got a ring to them, y'all. We first reported on Mr. Trash Wheel a few years ago, saying that though its name is dirty, its game is clean. The first one cost about $750,000 to build and about $100,000 a year to run. And since it was installed in 2014, it's gotten some brothers. Call it wheelie trashy. No one would call it wheelie flashy, but with googly eyes looming large, it consumes tons of the harbor's garbage. A fantastic vacuum of plastic, nothing getting past its effects so drastic. A mainstream cleaning machine cities can use to rid refuse in a way they don't refuse. I'm Carl Azuz for CNN 10. Fairport High School is If you've ever wondered, how fast do emperor penguins walk? The answer is not very, but they can keep up with people. At least this one did while following a group of expeditioners in Antarctica.
Trying to catch up, buddy? Hey? Yeah, I know. Come on.
The researcher who recorded this video told Storyful that every time he talked to the penguin, the animal responded.
Trying to keep up, buddy. Hey? Yep.
So that's how they went, having a nice conversation as the penguin slid along on its belly. The Australian Antarctic program says sometimes emperor penguins just want to tag along. Well, why not? He's king. He's having a royally good time, and if the ice sheet is like a red carpet, he should totally win the title for Best Supporting Actor. Okay, we know penguins aren't technically auks, but we can still auk like it for the sake of a really good penguin. There are a few things people say stink about the year 2020. Here's one they're lining up to get a whiff of. It's called a corpse flower, and people can smell it if they want to at California's Roseville High School. A science teacher there says it's the only high school in America to have successfully raised a corpse flower, which is native to Sumatra. So why does it stink? It's trying to attract flies and beetles with the smell of rotting flesh. People from Sumatra are probably like, dude, a corpse is a corpse of corpse of corpse, but why would you want that scent corpsing through your nose? It's not exactly thrilling. It may make your septum want to deviate, and it leaves everyone who smells it breathless. Of course, some folks might be a little intimidated if they looked up at a convenience store and saw this thing standing 3 feet away. Thankfully, it doesn't want to wrestle. It's a robotics company's answer for the need to restock store shelves while maintaining social distancing, at least between people. Its three-pronged hands can be controlled remotely by a person in another location. It doesn't appear to be as fast as human stockers. It could take their jobs, and we don't know how the cost of the robot compares to hiring a human for the work. And while you can only give it a high 3 out of 5, it kicks stocking store shelves into a whole new gear. Guaranteed not to steal any drinks, because that would short circuit the very thing that makes it robotic. It turns any shop into a machine shop, although all customer complaints would have to be handled remotely. Monkey accused of stealing phone, taking selfies. 10 out of 10. A Malaysian man says he lost his phone on Saturday and thought it was stolen. He says he was still trying to call it Sunday when he heard a ringing from the jungle behind his house, not far from where a monkey had been spotted. According to the British Broadcasting Corporation, the man checked the photo gallery and said it was stocked with pictures of the possible thief along with nature shots. Of course, the evidence might seem circumstantial. Some lawyers might not be giving it much credence, especially if they can't chimpanzee their way to winning the case. But you gotta give it some credit, because once you look Tammer into the facts, they tell a lion tale that gives a baboon to the argument over what the primate, or tried to. If you want a hippopotamus for Christmas, we can't help you. But if you're looking for a Tyrannosaurus Rex, this here skeleton is up for auction. It's named Stan for the paleontologist who discovered it in South Dakota. It's 13 feet tall and 40 feet long. Stan contains 188 original bones, though scientists think complete T-Rexes might have had more than 300. So can you get a 37% discount? You can try. Christie's estimates it'll fetch at least $6 million. And while there's no way some folks would pay that, it would wreck their bank account, others would be willing to drop a skeleton of cash. So you could stand Stan as it stands to withstand the test of time and bidding. Make no bones about it, y'all. I'm Carl Azuz for CNN 10. Nishimachi Internet. For a man in Massachusetts, it was a late summer snooze by the pool. That's why the feet you see in this picture aren't going anywhere when an uninvited visitor strolls into the scene. The animal seems to take a sip of water, and then it seems taken aback when it realizes what's sleeping nearby. But when the bear's curiosity gets the best of it and the sleeping giant wakes up, it's the bear that bolts, not the napper. Instead, he just reaches for his phone and zooms in for a close-up. This should probably fit into the don't try this at home category. Because even if you enjoy a good slum bear going dormant in the summer sun, a bit of shut-eye gets really eye-opening when your cat nap becomes a bear nap, turning all of your dreams into an Ursa Major hyper nightmare, y'all. I'm Carl. Today's 10 out of 10 segment is hair-raising. Told you. Joseph Grissamore has had long hair all his life, according to Guinness World Records. Now he has the title for world's tallest mohawk. But Carl, you're asking, how tall is it? 42.5 inches, that's 3.5 feet, and add that to his 6'1" frame, that's high. A good hairdresser and a strong hairspray help. Low ceilings in cars do not. Of course, he could always mo-walk or take a mo-hike or star in the last of the Mohawkins, and that's not a bald-faced lie. Everywhere he goes, he finds he has fans of the fan, and his record will stand like his mohawk, even if it's hair today, gone tomorrow. Terrible. Andrew Jackson. We're going to spend the last part of today's show talking about tug of war. Now, you might be like, dude, how long can you talk about that? Well, I'll start with history. According to Time.com, tug of war used to be an Olympic sport. From 1900 to 1920, teams of 8 men tried to drag their opponents over a certain distance. If neither team could get the upper hand, or foot, whoever made the most progress won. And one of the most successful countries at this was Britain, whose City of London police officers proved opponents couldn't escape the long arm or the strong arm of the law. Now, some people might think of tug of war as a game for summer camp or county fairs, but a group of folks in Brooklyn, Wisconsin hopes to drag the sport into the 21st century. So anyone could get roped in, pulled in, dragged in, towed in, hauled in, strung along, and find the whole idea moving. Does it tug at your heartstrings? It certainly seems to have a draw, even if it doesn't end in one. Seems old technology has been knocking out new technology in the nation of Wales. For the last 18 months, the broadband internet has been crashing every day at 7 a.m. in a Welsh village. No one could figure out why. A team of engineers then detected a burst of electrical interference coming from a single house when the resident turned on an old TV each morning. Engineers say anything electrical can impact broadband connections. So people should keep their antenna up, stay tuned in, and screen for anything that could cathodiously defuse such a high volume of other information channels. TV puns, they're always worth the UH effort. I'm Carl. For 10 out of 10 today, when horses fly. This is a horse. Her name is Lola. Is she a show horse? Lola recently fell down a 60-foot ravine in California, and because the terrain around her was so steep, she couldn't be walked out. So rescuers with the Orange County Fire Authority came in to help. They sedated her, hooked her up to a harness, and Lola took flight. Thanks to their efforts, she was safely reunited with her owner. When everything was still up in the air, she probably thought, I can't or believe this. First they tell me I can't trot out of here, then they dressage me up in a harness. I'd be a little saddle about it if it weren't so uplifting, and I am chomping at the bit to see my owner, so I guess I'll peg a shush. I'm Carl Azuz, horse! For 10 out of 10, we'd say this is life-sized, but unless you know any other robots that are 60 feet tall and weigh 48,000 pounds, well, you don't. This is the tallest robot in the world. It can walk, it can kneel. It's meant to resemble a robot from a Japanese animated TV series created in the late 1970s. Engineers have been involved in this project since 2014, and while COVID-19 has delayed fans' opportunities to see it in person, just seeing it virtually is amazing. Its proportions are cartoonishly huge, and it's a clear illustration of how they drew upon some serious skills and more than a flip book to set it all into animation. In Holliston, Massachusetts, the balancing rock has lost its balance. This is what it used to look like. Geologists say it balanced like this for thousands of years. The rock has a village and a street named after it. But this is what it looks like now, more of a fallen rock. Residents just found it like this last Tuesday. Legend has it that President George Washington once tried to push it over. Maybe that started the process. So would it be possible to bring in some heavy machinery and just move it back? One expert says, no.
So something that was once really nice to marvel at has lost some of its coldness, and the anthracite will never be the same. Of course, nothing lasts forever. Guess they'll just have to wipe the slate clean, chalk it up to nature, and try not to take anything else for granted. Okay, you might have seen that last one coming, but it still rocks, and so do the students of Morville High School in Morville, Mississippi. It is good. The question, how do we stay objective on our show? The answer, we explain it as part of a partnership with AT&T's Youth Voices Collective in a series of special editions. They feature yours truly and student questions about journalism. The first video is available right now. You can find it at cnn10.com and at youtube.com/cnn10. So you can call that our AT&Ts. Our objective is to stay objective for the sake of objectivity TV. I'm Carl Azuz. From the depths to the heights, British rescuers have just tested out a new jet suit for paramedics, and suddenly everyone wants to be a first responder. The advantage of this is that it saves time. A 25-minute walk over a mountainous landscape can now be done in a 90-second flight. Plus, people could get rescued by Iron Man. The disadvantage is that the suit can only fly for 5 or 10 minutes and can cost almost $500,000. And that could leave budgets in a turbine. But paramedics are known to act fast. These guys are flying. Paramedics are known to have nerves of steel. These guys have suits of iron. They always rise to the occasion and catch air on the job, so why wouldn't the new suit suit them? I'm Carl Azuz. For 10 out of 10, oh my goodness. Just look at the size of these pumpkins. Wow, Carl, how big are they? Big enough to be part of the ginormous pumpkin festival in Wisconsin. Folks there know how to grow them. This is the second year in a row they've held the festival. And as far as the winner goes, well, you can't pick it up at a pumpkin patch. 2,015 pounds. And that was worth a $2,500 grand prize for the people who grew it. Titanic tomatoes, weighty watermelons, and seismic squash were also part of the event. And there was a beauty contest too, which this pumpkin won. Gourd looking, it was gorgeous. A vine specimen, simply fruitinating, carved-evating, pumpcritudinous, the obvious Hallow winner. Of course they would carve out time to recognize it. And who needs a beauty pageant when you can have a pumpkin pageant? Neville High School, you're looking... You won't be on the ISS anytime soon, but you can still be part of the Planet Patrol. Sounds kind of like Moon Patrol. NASA has a satellite called TESS, the Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite. The $287 million vehicle is on the hunt for other possible planets, but it takes too many snapshots for scientists to review, and the computers that do that sometimes make mistakes. So NASA is asking for citizen scientists to help identify exoplanets. So what happens if you actually find one? Well, I don't know how the folks at NASA plan it, but it would totally rock to land your name on a distant surface. It'd be otherworldly. Some folks would never come back down to Earth. I'm Carl Azuz. Nothing unusual about this scene, except that I've got my co-anchor with me. But what if, instead of my friend Henry here, the dog I had were yellow, completely hairless, and completely robotic? Then there might be some questions. And that's what's happening wherever Boston Dynamics robot dog is being sighted. Jeannie Most takes a walk.
Oh, my phone. Bruh. It was a RoboDog video.
Hello, friend.
That had the internet both barking and wagging its tail.
I thought it was a little bit creepy, but I was excited to see it because I've never seen a robot in real life.
Oh my god! I love you!
Instead of a leash, it was handled by a guy with a controller.
He said that it was for a job. So we told him he had a pretty good job, I guess.
Walking Spot, the Boston Dynamics RoboDog that's been spotted lately.
For your own safety and for those around you, please stand at least 1 meter apart.
Telling people in a Singapore park to maintain social distance. The founder of Boston Dynamics told CNBC,
we have about 120 out in the world.
Stephen Colbert noticed Spot.
People would be a lot more receptive if the dog was cuter, cuddlier, and less dystopian.
Like Steven's dog?
Here's the Benny bot. There it is.
Boston Dynamics is making Spot cuddlier by showing RoboDogs dancing, working together, working out together, The Massachusetts State Police bomb squad tested Spot. SpaceX has one. Sighted amid clouds of liquid nitrogen. Will Spot become the future rover on Mars? After years of being taunted with a hockey stick, kicked, to demonstrate the ability to recover, and even being yanked. By the equivalent of its tail, Spot still persevered. Intended mostly for industrial use, Spot now sells for $74,500. The company warns Spot is not certified safe for in-home use or intended for use near children. You can expect to be hounded.
Dude, Spot, you are amazing.
By more Spot sightings, see Spot trot.
I love you so much.
Ginny Mose, CNN, New York.
Technology buffs lap that stuff up, but it's hardly a lap dog. Oh sure, it might fake a lap, take a lap, or obey like a Labrador, but it's a rover man, not a Doberman. And while it's a newfound land of technology, true dog lovers won't settle for what's Pomeranian unacceptable. Woo! I'm Carl Azuz. For 10 out of 10, I think the last time we covered drones in a football stadium, they were racing. This one's going to work. At Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, there's a National Football League game coming up on Sunday, and fans will be allowed back in the stands. So a few drones have been hired to spray disinfectant in an attempt to prevent the spread of coronavirus. This is believed to be the first time a stadium has used drones to do this. We don't know how the costs stack up against other methods, but we know that proponents will drone on about the benefits, saying they hope this propels others to do the same thing, while critics will look for different remotes of cleaning more within their control. Wherever it lands, it's an interesting idea that was floated, and thankfully the roof retracts to let in both drones and falcons. I'm Carl Azuz for CNN. In a neighborhood of Boulder, Colorado, a female bear and her 2 cubs were recently caught and relocated. And in their mad dash back to freedom, the camera was the casualty. Boom. Wildlife officials say bears get pretty bold this time of year, looking for food anywhere they can get it as they prepare to hibernate. These were safely and successfully relocated, and the video is a reminder to stay out of their way. It's not really polarizing advice, and you don't need to be spectacled to bear leave. There's a real danger if you Cody actually find claws to get face to muzzle with such a very real threat. The outcome could be grisly. Wakefield High School. A badger, some snakes, birds, guinea pigs, and a pony. These are some of the animals that roamed around the White House during the presidency of Theodore Roosevelt. And they weren't pests. President Roosevelt really liked animals. Now though, some White House residents of the uninvited variety are wreaking havoc, or at least really distracting some reporters.
Raccoons! There's an invasion crawling around the media cables on the White House lawn, sniffing at bags of gear.
Is there food in there?
Making a beeline for CNN's Joe Johns in the middle of a live shot.
Get! There he is. Ah! Now, no events on the president's schedule today.
Maybe you think Joe has seen too many movie raccoons.
Does someone need a hug?
You too might lob a footstool just to scare it.
No raccoons were harmed in this exercise.
If this was your second run-in with a raccoon. Just the week before, as Joe was about to go live,
I felt something on my leg, and the first thing I thought was it was a cameraman from another network. And I looked down, and it's a raccoon that had just grabbed my leg.
Law enforcement is on the hunt, spotlighting them with their flashlights, throwing some sort of sandbag, which the raccoon actually tried to drag away. One ended up in a Secret Service security shack. Dogs have joined the search, even broomsticks have been deployed, but like in the movie The Nut Job,
Not so fast!
The raccoons keep coming.
Is he still there? Can somebody chase him away?
Ginny Mose, CNN.
What a ringtale to tell. Of course, they might be looking to coatis the reporters, and they did Kinkajou's kind of a dangerous place, so they can't linger too long because even with their masks on, they're bassa risking being identified by the Secret Service. Fridays are awesome. Thank you to this. Leaping lizards? No, hurdling hounds. Max is a dog that lives in Arizona who would love to greet you. How do we know? Hi there. Hey, y'all. Because Max the jumping dog takes a flying leap above a 6-foot wall whenever passersby pass by. Doesn't seem like he's trying to get out, he's just trying to say hello. And thanks to his efforts and the magic of social media, he's become far more than a local celebrity. He's like a golden regreeter, a how do you doodle, a Harold English sheepdog, or a pika pika poodle. He will give you a salute and always wants a bow wow. He'll have an easy time saying hello or cha-chow chow. Taking puns and greetings to the Max on CNN 10. I'm Coral Azuz. Want to give a shout out. For 10 out of 10, we have some sad-ish news for you today. Your chance to own your very own fossilized T-Rex has come and gone. Last month, we told you how Stan, a dino skeleton named for the paleontologist who discovered it, was going up for auction. Christie's auction house estimated it would fetch $6 million, but in true T-Rex fashion, Stan ate that for breakfast. The winning bidder paid $31.8 million. It's the most money any fossil has ever fetched at auction, and the skeleton isn't even complete. Though it took a complete fortune to facilitate such a Giganosaurus sale and Triceratops the record. Maybe someone's all velocirapted up in this idea of collecting Allosaurs he can for his own Jurassic Park. I'm Carl Azuz, T-wrecking our show with dinosaur puns. We hope you'll come back. If we were to tell you about a diamond named Spirit of the Rose, you might expect it to look like this. The 14.83 carat diamond is believed to be the largest pink crystal ever unearthed in the nation of Russia. But it's not the world record holder. That title went to the 59.6 carat pink star, which sold in Hong Kong a few years ago for more than $71 million. The Spirit of the Rose expected to fetch a measly $38 million. But anyone who gets his or her hands on such a titanic treasure will never let go, Rose. Now, you'd need an awful lot of cushion to make that purchase. Unless you're a princess, it's anything but marquisy. Unless it has a twin, you won't find a pair. But there's no doubt it's a radiant diamond in the rough, and it brings us to a dazzling denouement on CNN 10. Orono, don't you know, is... The Guinness World Record for longest slip and slide is 611 meters, or just over 2,000 feet. This homemade one measures 100 meters, but it may be the fastest. An Idaho college student named Joel Dustin built it over the summer using a lot of painter's tarps and a garden hose. His time to cover the downhill distance was 10.4 seconds, and that may earn him a world record for fastest speed on a slip and slide. Joel topped out at 32 miles per hour. But why stop with a tarpaulin when you could have a tarpal win? The end may leave you muddier, your friends might think you're nuttier, the sun might make you ruddier, but racing down a gutter on a surface slick as butter, even if you have to crash, could help you make a splash. I tried to slide a few puns in there, but I don't know, maybe I'm slipping. I'm Coral Azuz. Hey. One word, Squidbot. This is a project at the University of California, San Diego. It's a soft robot that can push itself through the water. It can also carry a camera to keep tabs on what's happening under the waves. Soft robots can be less damaging to marine life than other robots, and while Squidbot is faster than other soft robots, its speed tops out at about half a mile per hour. Real squids can squirt along at 24 miles per hour. Plus, it probably takes an awful lot of quid, to take a shot with Squidbot. That is, unless you ink a special deal. Paying full prices for suckers. Now, before you invertebrate me, I'm going to go ahead and squid while I'm ahead. That's enough squidding around, and we got a squidaddle anyway. Shout out to Chapel School. Our last story today concerns protective face masks. In some areas they're optional, in some they're recommended, in some they're the law.
But wherever people stand on wearing them, we've seen some pretty creative solutions out there, from the silly and somewhat scary to designer masks that can run upwards of $140. But this is the first time we've heard of a scented one.
It's the smell that won't let sleeping dogs lie.
Bacon! Bacon! Where's the bacon?
It's on your face! The Hormel bacon folks figured what better scent in which to swaddle your nose.
It's one of those foods that just truly makes everything better.
Even a pandemic? They came up with what Hormel calls a smellicious innovation. The breathable bacon mask is now reality, though you have to win the right to wear one. Enter for a chance to whiff. A PR person who got one tweeted, "This smells so good I'm considering wearing it all day even though I have no plans to leave the house." Someone else joked, "Accidentally nibbled a hole in my bacon-scented face mask." Don't eat bacon, inhale it is the mask's motto.
It's not too overpowering.
Sure, there are plenty of novelty masks out there, from the dog snout to lips to shark teeth to missing teeth to a burger. Someone even mocked up actual bacon into the shape of a mask, but none of those actually smell.
Similar to what you would see on Scratch and Sniff. So we actually found an ink that we could print on the back of these masks. It smells just like our bacon.
Other companies like Banana Republic have made masks promoting themselves, but they didn't literally raise a stink. The bacon mask reminds us of a short-lived invention from the 80s, the scent alarm clock that woke you up with the scent of bacon. The pork aroma on the mask will start to dissipate after 2 or 3 washings. Until then, keep the dog away from your face.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. No, 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 no. It's bacon!
Ginny Mose, CNN, New York.
It's bacon!
If you think masks feel hot, that one's sizzling. It's one way to be baking up enthusiasm for something that could get you pork belly laughs whenever you wear it. It'd be pretty piggish to wear it on a farm, though. I don't know how someone could be that boorish. The animals might shout at you, and you really wouldn't be able to whine about it. I'm Carl Azuz. Well, the moon is set to get a 4G network, and it may be more reliable than ours. There won't be any trees, buildings, or TV signals to get in the way. But Carl, you might be asking, there are no people on the moon. Why do this? So glad you asked. NASA's hoping to build a moon base by 2028, and they figure it'll need wireless technology. So they gave Bell Labs $14 million to build out a 4G network on the moon, and it'll be upgradable to 5G. Though 2028 is many moons from now, 5G technology may no longer be out of this world by then. Technology buffs may 5G at it, saying putting something so dated on the moon is sheer lunacy. Maybe ET can phone home, but it might be to dial up a complaint about a slow connection. I'm Carl Azuz. Hey! Here's a Halloween decoration that's both a trick and a treat. It's a treat to see, assuming you're not afraid of absolutely horrifyingly green man-eating spiders. It's a trick from a retired toy maker who used a crane and a lot of ingenuity to build this disturbing decoration outside his home in upstate New York. He says 2020 was the perfect time to do this. But poor little Miss Muffet, I mean, she'd have a heart attack if that spider sat down beside her. It would send anyone wandering away. It took a torrential lot of work to build. It wouldn't fit in any cellar. I mean, at that size, that thing can be anything but reclusive. I'm Carl Azuz. For 10 out of 10, vroom. This is the SSC Tuatara. SSC is the manufacturer, Tuatara is the model. It's making news because it's fast. How fast is it? In a recent drive outside Las Vegas, Nevada, the Tuatara hit 331 miles per hour, as in 331 miles per hour, on a carbon fiber chassis and a gas-fueled twin-turbo V8 engine that produces 1,750 horsepower. According to SSC, that makes the Tuatara the world's fastest production car, a vehicle that has a bunch of identical models that are available to the public. A bunch meaning 12 that are already sold out for next year. Available meaning maybe sometime after that. And to the public meaning to the public that generally has $2 million to spend on a car. So too much for most to a handle. But it does have a Tua aura about it, so you can SSC why someone with the need for speed would be willing to burn out a bank account to win the race to get one. It is getting too late for us Tua Terry, so we'll say toodaloo, but not before we say hello. Probably seems like something called a diabolical ironclad beetle would be pretty tough. Well, it is. So tough you can run over it with a car and the beetle is still ticking. Scientists wanted to find out why, and in a new study published in the journal Nature, they credit 2 interlocking lids over the beetle's back for protecting it. These things fit together like a jigsaw puzzle, and that helps the beetle spread any force that's applied to it across its body. Researchers are hopeful that studying this beetle will allow them to invent new and stronger materials for better engineering in the things we build. Its back is strong, its name is bad, and it walks to the beatle of a different drum. Some try to crush it, but it's ironclad, withstanding weight thousands of times its own. Unlike the beetles, it won't sing help if the nowhere man gives it a hard day's night. Its lids come together to save its hide, its ticket to survive makes it feel alright. Well, here's one way to do a Halloween costume that fits a common theme of 2020. Behold a walking Zoom meeting, creatively titled a Zoom and Gloom meeting that features a bunch of photoshopped images of the 12-year-old who will be wearing it. The girl herself is visible through a cutout in the middle, and the screen above her will reflect the person who's giving her candy. This was created by a dad whose company designs office buildings and museums, and he's made a name for himself with creative costumes in the past. Of course, you might call it a little psycho, but it took a Draculot of ingenuity and maybe some werewolf-all to take the Frankenstein to monster up such creativity. The dad's a Jekyll of all trades with nothing to hide, y'all. In World War II, aviators wore their parachutes harnessed to their backs and sat on them as seat cushions. At least one of these became a wedding dress, this wedding dress, and not just because it was hard to get silk in 1945. George Brate was flying for the U.S. Army when his plane was hit by enemy fire. His parachute literally saved his hide by keeping the bullets from his skin, so he brought the chute home filled with holes and gave it to his bride-to-be. She removed the Army-Navy lettering and skillfully sewed the chute into a wedding dress, and their children recently donated it to a museum in New York. Don't know if their wedding was perfect, but man, it was smooth as silk. Was that the fabric of their lives? They wove a love story for the ages, stitched together more than 60 years of marriage, blessed by a dress that made for one happy landing. Any game involving an excavator is going to be done on a big scale. To celebrate its 95th year in business, the Caterpillar Construction Equipment Company built a giant Pac-Man game board. The goals? To show off the machinery and the industry to future workers. After it was built, customers, gamers, and operators were allowed to remotely control Pac-Man and the Ghosts through skid steer loaders. It took 70 man-hours to dig out the maze. But what an amazing midway to show off. We don't know who had the genesis of the idea, but Nintendo don't knock it till you've tried it. Why be Atari reasonable when you have the ColecoVision to Sega your funds into fun and games? I'm Carl. When I say Chipmunk Cafe, you might think Cat Cafe, like where you can have a latte with a tabby. This is a little different. A Georgia food critic built a mini cafe for the mini chipmunk who lives outside her home. She's named him Thelonious Monk, cause he's a chipmunk. And she's built him everything from a barbecue to a ramen noodle bar. The builder says this has helped her get through the pandemic when she couldn't get 2 restaurants. Is it Zagat rated? It's rodent rated, and rodent rated too. It's for a good cause, it's open to guests of all stripes, and they don't have to chip in, just scamper in for a meal that'll make them go nuts. I'm Carl Azuz for CNN. When we think of pumpkins this time of year, it's usually in terms of removing their innards, not stuffing them. But don't tell that to these residents of the Brookfield Zoo in Illinois. Their pumpkins are stuffed with everything from bugs to bones to fruit to meat.
Oh my goodness! And regardless of what they got from the Halloween fairy, all of these animals got engaged in playing with their food and eating it too. Pumpkin pie, pumpkin bread, pumpkin seeds, or pumpkin soup. Who cares when your pumpkin pie in the sky is filled with meat or fruit? The big cats are not lying when they say they want their pound of flesh. The primates are not monkeying around when they want something fresh. It all stems from their favorite foods, whether they're in the zoo or wild, so you can't blame those for turning up the nose where pumpkin pie is piled. Woo! All right, we hope... So we've talked about how 2020 isn't a normal year in light of lockdowns. It's not a normal year for elections. It's not a normal year for schools. And that's why the principal of a high school in Texas recently released surveillance video to the faculty. He says because of all the challenges of the year, people are desperate for fun, but I don't think this raccoon was.
The art teacher came in, and when she opened the door, well, it then fell on the floor in front of her. And so I'm not sure which one got scared the most, but anyway, it took off. When the animal control officer arrived to then what we thought just go in and get the raccoon and take him to a new home and release him and all would be done. But when opened the door to go in to get him, then the fun ensued. I didn't really know about the fun excitement of the chase until actually after it was all said and done. And then I started hearing bits and pieces about how funny this was, and I thought, well, I've got to go check the cameras to see that.
So the animals report card, well, it certainly passed a lot of classes. It wasn't tardy to school, and it always has its mask on. But it was caught running in the hallway, and it didn't follow directions, so I'd say its conduct needs improvement. Maybe it could take a tip from park... So here's an engineering challenge. You want to move a building 200 feet away. It's 5 stories tall and weighs 15 million pounds. Think the idea has legs? The building did. Engineers in Shanghai, China attached almost 200 mobile supports under this building. They acted like robot legs controlled by sensors, and they worked together to walk the 85-year-old schoolhouse almost a block away. The building's unusual shape prevented workers from pulling or sliding it. Once the plan was set in cornerstone, it seemed pretty concrete when they took it step by step, because they couldn't go brick by brick. It was a feat for robotic feet, a victory for masonry, and they did it without losing a chip off the old block. I'm Carl Azuz for CNN. At first, this looks like a supercar with a giant wing on the back. But this wing flies, baby, along with the other ones that unfold from this flying car. It's a prototype, the 5th generation air car designed by a professor in Slovakia, but it has completed its maiden flight, reaching an altitude of 1,500 feet. The price? We don't know yet, but based on what we've seen from other flying car prototypes, they are much more than the average house. And it's hard to scale something so upscale, to bring the car to market, then to market the car. You hope it takes off in the air and it sails. If it ain't clear for takeoff, you won't get very far. If it gets off the ground, up and down around town, it's a pretty fly way to elevate a commute. A runaway success will be found for the buyer with the loot and the lofty attitude. We are all out of gas. I want to give a shout out to our viewers at the Architects have to have a vision, but the one who designed a sculpture in the Netherlands would have never envisioned this. On Monday, a subway train broke through its barriers and landed on top of a whale tail sculpture. The only person aboard the train was the driver, and he wasn't hurt. But the architect of the sculpture says if it weren't so strong and built at the height it was, the driver might not have survived the accident. And now when he tells of the tall tales, he's not telling tall tales. He's got a whale of a tale to tell about the time he took the underground overground and wound up grounded to an undersea creature. People might ask, are you for whale? They might ask if he's feeling well, but he'll be able to say, hey, It's no fluke. For 10 out of 10, we have some finalized election results from Kentucky. In the town of Rabbit Hash, the new mayor-elect is officially Wilbur, the French Bulldog. There were a lot of candidates, from Smokey the Rooster to Stella the Fat Cat. But Wilbur chased them away from the top spot when residents cast their vote for him along with a donation to the local historical society. Wilbur follows in the paw prints of Gwyneth Paltrow. Could just as easily have gone to Brad Pitbull or LaBradley Dorr Cooper. And how about Nicole Kidman, Regina King Charles Spaniel, or Marlon Brand Doberman? This race has gone to the dogs, y'all, but at least we know who has a leg up on the competition. Fridays are awesome. I wouldn't say I'm the world's best ping pong player, but let's put it this way. I could take on any 3-year-old. Never mind, this kid would knock me out. He's making waves and fans in southern China. The boy's family says he's been practicing since he was an infant. He's also a legacy. His grandmother was a professional ping pong player, and she's been coaching him. So if you think you're talented at table tennis, this type could turn the table tennis tables on you, smashing spikes that make the ball spin, serving returns that make your head spin. Won't take long to see some ping pong when competitors get paddled, caught in a net of defeat. I'm Carl Azuz, West Monroe High School. It's been said that the traffic on Parmalee Gulch Road will only slow down when pigs fly. Well, the man who owns property in this part of Jefferson County, Colorado, made a flying pig. He used paper mache, fiberglass, pink paint, and lipstick, 'cause lipstick on a pig, and it's working. Drivers are slowing down to look at it. The owner plans to leave it up all winter and possibly make more as long as people keep tapping the brakes when they see them. Last time I saw a flying pig was at a barbecue food fight. Now don't grunt at me or bust my chops. You know I'm inclined to ham it up. You know I'm always rooting for the puns that are baking you grown, and I always keep a spare or two just to rib people with. I'm Carl Azuz for Disneyland in California is still closed, along with its famous Matterhorn bobsled roller coaster. So a family in Napa, California built their own. 2 brothers, one of whom is an architecture student, enlisted the help of 30 friends and family members, and the result was a 2-story ride in their own yard. It shares a lot of details with the real thing, a water feature, a Yeti. It's reportedly 20 feet tall, and it takes just under a minute to ride the entire 400-foot track. All in all, it took them about 4 months to build, and if you have the time, the talent, the space, the workforce, and no community rules that prevent this sort of thing, you could build your own for an estimated $15,000. But bragging rights? You'd be able to toot your own Matterhorn. It was a mountain of a challenge. We don't know how many times they got stucco or were asked, "Are you done, Yeti?" But we're glad they stayed on track through all the ups and downs of the process, because now they can just coaster after satisfying their need for speed. I'm Carl Azuz. Today, for 10 out of 10, you don't have to be a fan of the Smashing Pumpkins to be a fan of Smashing Pumpkins. Every year after Halloween, the Discovery Center Museum in Rockford, Illinois helps people creatively dispose of their gourds. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But the organizers say their mission isn't only positioned on pumpkin pulverization, it's also about helping people learn, find joy, and have fun. That's fun for adults and guillotines alike. They had a smashing good time. It's no funkin for the pumpkins, though. I mean, they already have to endure being carved up, and they just don't see what gourd could come of being catapulted into the spotlight. Hey, speaking of the spotlight. If it looks like a dolphin, swims like a dolphin, and performs like a dolphin, it must be a robot? This one is a robot, not a dolphin. It's a creation of an engineering company that makes lifelike animatronics for movies. And according to the Reuters news agency, the company hopes robots will one day replace live animals at theme parks. What's unknown is if crowds will pay to see robots instead of real animals, and whether the animatronics price tag will be worthwhile to aquariums.
The environmental news company EchoWatch reports that a robot dolphin like this one costs more than $26 million, which may send investors beat to the drawing board to use their melons about whether blowholing that much money to endorsal an animatronic alternative puts them in the swim or sinks their project. It's something they can't be flippant about. Dolphin puns. There's an ocean of possibilities. I'm Carl Azuz for CNN 10. Some of you are watching from Clinton. Final score of the Hawks game was 108-94. Now that would make sense in professional basketball, but in high school football, a score like that would be a record, right? Right. In Iowa, the Remsen St. Mary's Hawks and the Montezuma Braves put up a combined total of 202 points in a single game. That's a state record, and though Remsen St. Mary's 108 points won the game, the 94 that Montezuma put up was still 94 points. The scoreboard couldn't keep up. It's not programmed to go that high, so the Hawks' score appeared as infinity. They're not just winning at football, they're winning at math. Because when you touch down pen to paper, you need to make hash marks by the yard just to add up a score that rushes past the record, catches national attention, and receives credit for such a highly calculated offense that would exceed anyone's field goals. Green Mountain Union High. Disney is looking for ways to make the robots at its theme parks more interactive. Unfortunately, critics say, one of the robots looks like this. It doesn't have skin, at least at this point, but it does look pretty lifelike in a creepy, unfinished sort of way, and it's been programmed along with its realistic eye movements to respond to the people around it. Of course, not all people will want to stay around it. As it stares cyborgs into you with heartless mechanized, an unnerving liplessness around its skeleteeth that would make humans want to express themselves by expressly moving to more attractive attractions. It's a small world after all. We live on an awesome planet. Why become frozen ever after in an icy stare that'd make Peter Pan want to take flight? I'm Carl. The 4 astronauts on the latest space mission have arrived at the International Space Station, and there was a stowaway with them. The force was too strong to leave Baby Yoda behind, even though he didn't buy a $55 million seat. Is there a purpose for a plush doll on a trip that's not to a galaxy far, far away? Possibly. Aboard the launch vehicle, a floating Yoda could show them this is the way to know when they've left the pull of gravity. So he does kind of have a Jabba, even if it's just Boba Fetting around in space until they Lando Chew back on Earth. No one's going to look at him and say, Yoda man, but he's not flying Han Solo, and he won't cause any general grievances while he's up there, so the astronauts seem pretty stoked to have him while they Skywalker around this winter. Okay, you heard phrases like eliminating car ownership and right around the corner, but you also heard words like prototype and test car. To be clear, experts say a cityscape with fully self-driving cars is likely to be decades away, and whether this would work in the country is another question entirely. For the present, even with all the technology available to us, drivers are still autonomous, mostly in control. And even if driverless cars seem the technological next step, the intelligence of smart cars is still artificial, so smart design will have to take the driver's seat if people are to take a backseat role on the road ahead. I'm Carl Azuz, and I break for CNN. In New York City tradition, a 75-foot tall Christmas tree recently arrived at Rockefeller Center. What's not traditional is what was inside. This guy. A worker found him while setting up the tree. Officials say the saw-whet owl probably got trapped when the tree was being tied up for transport. They named him Rockefeller. He's not seriously hurt, and after Rockefeller fully recovers at a wildlife center, he'll be set free. Say what? No, saw-whet. Saw what? A saw-whet owl. Who saw it? I saw it. Soon he'll be a free bird. This winter he'll be a snowbird. He's been involved in quite a flap, and we don't know if he'll be beak, but we are glad folks were on hand to help a feller like Rockefeller. I'm Carl Azuz. Today. Santa Claus always gets a 10 out of 10, even if he has to keep his social distance this year. In Nevada, Ethel M. Chocolates has a Santa kids can talk to behind a plexiglass window. At the Fashion Show Mall, Santa is masked up and ready to smile in the background of your Christmas photos. and Santas on Demand are available on the Cameo application, allowing people to request a personalized video from a socially distant St. Nick. None of this is quite the same as sitting on his lap and seeing the twinkle in his eye, maybe. And Santa might have been thinking, "'Tis 5 weeks before Christmas, and who's gonna hire us? I want to spread cheer, but not coronavirus. Even dressed all in fur from my head to my foot, that's more concerning than ashes and soot. When down through the chimney I set to my task, I need sanitizer and a cloth mask. Some creatures are stirring, but to doctors' insistence, their stockings are separate by 6 feet of distance. But Santa gets up even when he's knocked down. His magic subverts the most stringent lockdown. By taking precautions online and on site, he can still wish Merry Christmas and to all a good night." St. Augustine, Florida is the oldest city in the U.S., so it may not seem surprising that erosion from a recent tropical storm would reveal a historic shipwreck. Researchers think this is the remains of a merchant ship that unknowingly sailed into a hurricane in the 1800s and wound up on the shore here. Its crew survived, and apparently so did the wreckage, protected by the sand from the sun and the salty air. Hard to say how many galleons of water washed over it, but it is a slooper discovery that no one drift would forget now that it's made its bark like a true merchantman. You knew we were not going to set sail without wrecking your Tuesday with some puns. Bossy High School is For 10 out of 10, whatever you do, don't look down. Or look down. That's why most people come here. This is the world's tallest outdoor elevator, according to Guinness World Records. It towers 1,070 feet above a national forest in southeastern China, and it carried up to 18,000 tourists a day before the coronavirus pandemic. Some believe the forest inspired the movie Avatar. You could say the elevator inspired the movie Gravity. Or maybe Days of Heaven, Made in Heaven, Just Like Heaven, Miracles from Heaven, Kingdom of Heaven. Heaven can wait. Heaven is for real. All that heaven allows, all dogs go to heaven. Heaven knows, Mr. Allison, that some of those movies, like that elevator, can really give you a lift. Hey, you know what gives us a lift? The Penguins recently showed up at Soldier Field in Chicago. And before you say I've got my sports leagues confused, told you, Penguins. Of course, Soldier Field has hosted greats like Butkus, Ditka, and Peyton. Recently, it was visited by Charlotte, Izzy, and Tombo. They usually play at Chicago's Shed Aquarium, but it's closed right now, so workers have been taking the Penguins on field trips. It's not the first time we've heard about Penguins in football. Consider the great Ray Flipperty. There's Krill Carter, George Rafton, John Waddle, Derek Brookery. A lot of players fit the Bill Parcells, and not all of them are Dolphins, so you just never know whom you're going to find in the huddle. We found Manor High For 10 out of 10, the mystery of the missing monolith. November 18th, a Department of Public Safety helicopter crew is counting bighorn sheep in southeastern Utah. They discover a mysterious object standing about 10 to 12 feet high. No one knows who put it there or why. The crew leave it as they find it. And though they don't share its location, some intrepid explorers make their way out to the desert to see it for themselves. Then, the night of November 27th, the monolith is mysteriously removed and replaced by rocks. But that same weekend, a similar looking monolith appears in eastern Romania. Hey, it's 2020! Add that to the monolist of things that no one saw coming or going. Figuring this one out is going to be a monumental task. We'll have to put it in the Unsolved Mysteries column. Sure, some may pillory that idea, but what is this statute of limitations on a monolithary? It's not like it's set in... In 1825, Joel Poinsett became the first U.S. ambassador to Mexico. He was not a popular figure with the Mexican government, but he did bring something back from Mexico that became a popular symbol of the Christmas season. Who would have thought a poinsettia would ever get this big?
If 2020 has you seeing red, take heart. That piddly poinsettia from the grocery store?
I'm about 6'1".
Can end up man size. Just ask Mike and his wife, Joanne Hill.
Getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
The thing just exploded.
But before we get any further, let's clear up one thing.
I grew up saying poinsettia.
The giant poinsettia.
Poinsettia. That's what's so great about poinsettias.
Poinsettia.
Either way is acceptable. Poinsettia seems slightly preferred. But however you pronounce it...
This was a little half-dead plant from Maxie. And look at it.
From a grocery store in Quebec 3 years ago to this. Joanne says Mike is the one with the green thumb.
And I kill cacti.
Mike took the measly poinsettia outside during the warm months and replanted it in a huge pot. They are considered shrubs or small trees and can grow as tall as 13 feet.
You say poinsettia, I say poinsettia. In the holiday season, few plants are better for poinsetting the scene with shades of red and green. They plant Christmas cheer, leafing it to be seen with the holly and the ivy. It's worth all the toil to splurge upon a spurge that's a gift from the soil. Plant puns. Not a lot of snow in the forecast for Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's in the Chihuahuan Desert, so... But that doesn't mean people there don't want to build a snowman. And they did, in a manner of speaking, using tumbleweeds. Can you call him Frosty? We'll call him Weedy. This is an annual tradition dating back 25 years. He is wearing a mask this time, cause 2020. The tumbleweeds are spray-painted white and accentuated with recycled materials for the hat and eyes. And if that doesn't make you smile, maybe you're a diaspora sport. Sorry if that causes a dust-up, but a tumbleweed snowman's rooted in the Christmas spirit. It'd give even Scrooge his just deserts and weed out any haters. So if you think all tumbleweed's good for is dust in the wind, well, that's the last straw. The Arecibo Observatory Telescope in Puerto Rico was one of the most powerful telescopes in the world. I say was because this happened last week. The radio telescope had been around since the 1960s, but it was not in good shape. This summer, one of the cables that supported its 900-ton platform snapped. And then last month, another one broke, and engineers say it was just a matter of time before the whole thing came tumbling down. They had a pretty good handle on the scope of the damage, but we'd rather observe what it was supposed to observe rather than having a lens to see it go down the tube and such an aperture loss for a finder that helped. Is this the world's most beautiful aircraft? It's certainly the best smelling. This is a full-scale Airbus A380 made entirely out of flowers. 40 tons of flowers. It's one of the astonishing arrangements at the Dubai Miracle Garden in the United Arab Emirates. It's also the Guinness World Record holder for world's largest flower arrangement. The garden's creator says the goal here is to make displays that the world marvels at. Well, that's plain to see. And you can see why anyone would want to jet or pedal on over to the garden. There's no stigma. No one's going to pick on them for wanting to stamen around for a while with the filler mentality of searching for anthers. All flowers have style, some appallingly so, and like our pun. Upcoming Olympic events: sports climbing, extreme canoe slalom, and breakdancing. It'll make its debut at the 2024 Summer Games in Paris, France. The International Olympic Committee made the announcement this week. It says it's part of an effort to make the Games more youthful and more urban. Some athletes in excluded sports, like squash, strongly disagree with the decision, but the IOC says the host countries have some influence over what's included, and France apparently proposed breakdancing. How will it be judged? I mean, it's not like judges can just freeze and lock into whatever down rock makes the floor rock, or try to decipher all the handspin, heel spin, or backspin that makes their head spin like a windmill. Or maybe it is, as long as they have a firm foundation for breaking down. The average weight for a pet goldfish is around half a pound or less, though they can grow to 5 pounds in the wild. This one, though, recently discovered at a small lake in South Carolina, is 9 pounds in weight and 15 inches long. Parks and recreation workers found the massive fish while doing a survey of the lake. These animals are not native to South Carolina. Officials say it's likely someone tossed their pet in the lake and it just had plenty to eat and a lot of room to grow. They threw it back in after getting the photo. Holy mackerel! That's a goldfish that a catfish wouldn't be caught kidding around with. The officer's barracuda kept it, but it's kind of bonito that they threw it back trout and didn't let it flounder. I mean, after all, it's worth its weight in goldfish, and it swims to the tuna for different drumfish. I'm Coral Azuz. You're probably not going to get the chance to spend the night in Santa's workshop. But if you live in New York, you might get the chance to spend one night at the FAO Schwartz toy store. It's an Airbnb that'll give one lucky family the chance to stay on December 21st. They'll get a lavish dinner, a shopping spree, and a private tour from a socially distant toy soldier. And they'll get to sleep at the store for the low price of $25. It's amazing to think what's in store for the good little soldiers who will be able to get dolled up and slinky on over to the ultimate PlayStation. It's a great way to connect for a family. It could make the season merry and light bright, and there will be plenty to tinker and toy with, at least until your batteries get low, so who knows how kids will be able to build a bear the suspense. From New York City, in the North Atlantic Ocean, between Iceland and Norway, a pretty amazing traffic circle is about to open up in the Faroe Islands. And it's not just amazing because it's pretty. It's located more than 600 feet beneath the ocean's surface. It's made out of natural rock and illuminated by blue, green, and yellow lights. And it'll help people get around the 17 inhabited islands there. It's part of a tunnel network whose estimated cost is around $170 million. But many residents are glad they got roundabout to building it, because now that the project's come full circle, it's making people want to both stop and go for a drive and an undersea adventure, keeping their eyes transfixed on both the road and a head-spinning, car-spinning, tire-spinning intersection of land and sea. I'm Coral Azuz for CNN 10. Crazy to think of 2019 as a simpler time, when kids could just walk up to Santa, sit on his lap, and get their pictures taken while they told him what they wanted for Christmas. Now there are masks, face shields, plexiglass, sometimes computer screens between jolly young people and the jolly old elf. But as everyone involved hopes this is the first and last year for scenes like this, they're still finding creative ways to drum up Christmas magic.
I do have my Merry Christmas mask. So when I'm out and about, I can mask up, then make everybody else feel safe as well.
He's been isolating in the North Pole for 11 months. Now Santa's ready to get back to business with a little help from his friends. This year, many of Santa's grottos are closed due to COVID-19.
We're through.
Which means Santa's helpers, who kindly step in when he's busy, are having to learn some new skills.
Welcome to a slightly different but still wonderful Santa School.
Santa HQ is an app allowing for Zoom chats with Santa.
Very good indeed. Now, what we need to do is just scale it down slightly.
It's run by the Ministry of Fun, one of the biggest Santa recruitment firms in the UK, who see plenty of benefits.
You get to see Santa in his home. You get longer with him because normally there's a queue and there's lots of people that want to see the great man. And it's much more personal.
I know it'll be slightly different, but by using video and all this technology, we can see our family no matter where they are in the world.
And you can see Santa too. Now he's Zoom ready. Anna Stewart, CNN, reporting from Santa's London office in the UK.
One of them says he always wears gloves and uses sanitizer. That's fantastic. You could say it slays me. Now, he probably won't catch coronavirus up on the housetop, but mommy better not be caught kissing him, because whether you have a white Christmas, a blue Christmas, or a holly jolly one, Navi Dad would be anything but felice about it. When you envision a robot, you probably don't think of this. The TechCrunch online newspaper compared it to a lemon peel. But it is a type of robot, a soft one that works underwater, and it can fold and walk and even carry stuff. It moves by the power of light and magnetic fields, and the researchers at Northwestern University who developed it hope it could one day be used in medicine. What type? The Hydro Nano prototype. What branch? Could be a step toward better podiatry. Maybe you could see it in ophthalmology or orthodontics if it has teeth. Dermatology could give it some skin in the game. I mean, who knows what pathology it'll take? Whatever field it goes into, it's... Definitely a 21st century idea. You call a taxi and this thing shows up without a driver. There are several companies working on electric self-driving vehicles. Google is one of them. Amazon owns the one you see here. It has airbags, cameras, and radar designed to keep people safe, and it can travel up to 75 miles per hour. But though it's being tested, it's not actually in operation yet, and several questions remain. Could it kill jobs for taxi, Uber, and Lyft drivers? What if you're in a hurry or you don't like the route it's chosen? The technology is just hitting the road. There are a lot of different directions it can go, and while some introverts might like the idea of going driverless, it could drive some extroverts crazy. So we'll see if and when it gets in gear, if it's a signal of wheel change, or if it's a wrong turn that never gets seated in shifting opinions, even though it's meant to be out of gas, y'all. Snow or not, 18-year-old Tyler Kamholtz recently lit his car up like a Christmas tree. It's beginning to look a lot like Camaro. His father, a retired police officer, was not impressed because he says he knew it broke the law, and Tyler was pulled over, though the state trooper only gave him a warning and took a picture. Tyler is allowed to keep the lights on the car, but he can only turn them on while driving on back roads. Forget the halls, y'all. It's time to deck the cars. Where there's a wheel, there's ways to win the holiday light wars. Clark Griswold's bright idea made a house all that it can be, but Tyler's car can make the neighbors red and green with envy. The haters want to cover it. They can't get Camaro over it. Admirers all lover it. Their smiles hover over it. He strings along a colorful car full of Christmas cheer and hopes he doesn't see blue lights behind again this year. That almost wraps our show for 2020. Want to give a quick shout out to Plattsburgh High School in Plattsburgh, Missouri for subscribing and leaving a comment on our YouTube channel. We wish you all a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. We look forward to seeing you again on January 4th. Thank you for the gift of being the best audience in news. I'm Coral Azuz for CNN.